Well, that's a step in the right direction.
Hello, everybody. It's that time of week yet again. I can't believe it's already been a week since last time. We have the pleasure of talking about another Vietnam War classic, Platoon, 1986. Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe. You know it. You know that iconic poster. And I think, unfortunately for me, I never really watched this movie all the way through before. I know I've seen clips of it, and that's the problem, is these clips, they circulate online. You see a cool clip, and then at the end of the day, it ruins a lot of these movies for you. And there were some really big moments that were ruined for me before I got to watch this for the first time. Unfortunately, that's the case in truth here. Luke, this was your first time watching it though, right?
Correct.
Yep. Good. Awesome. But it's not just Luke and I talking. Of course not. This is a big movie. This is a monumental film, right? And I mean, this was sort of a groundbreaking Vietnam War tale, right? A lot of the movies before had been criticized for being glorifying the war too much, not showing it, or showing it in rose-tinted glasses, right? So this really kind of tore down that veil and showed a much more disturbing glimpse into the war that a lot of people criticized back in the day. So yeah, we have an awesome panel here, though. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to introduce them, starting with History Bro. Thanks for joining us, Bo, the History Bro. Good to see you all the way from England, 3 a.m. his time. Woke up nice and early. We appreciate it, man.
No, thanks for having me. It's a great film. It's a truly great film, and I'm fascinated by Vietnam, or the war in Indochina, as it was. So if I can help you, gentlemen, shed any light on the real historical facts and the side of things, the real life of Oliver Stone, etc., then happy to help.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah. And I'm just so thankful you joined us, man. We definitely appreciate your time, and, waking up super early, 3 a.m., it's 10 p.m. our time. It's already late for us, but
it's dedication.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. So thanks for joining. Also, two more regular friends of the channel. Happy to bring back our good friend Kyle Corwith and World War Joe. Back
Rock
from the
and
dead.
roll.
What's up, boys? Kyle, when was the last time you were with us?
Van Helsing.
Van Helsing, man.
Oh, yeah,
it's been a little while.
Mm-hmm.
That's
weeks,
crazy. That was like.
In the meantime, Luke, why have you had to be such a dick?
Yeah, why do you have to be such a dick?
What'd you do, Luke? Were you being
Little
mean to
inside
Kyle?
joke.
Yeah,
Did you watch the rest of Megan's stream?
Uh-huh. Oh, wait. Oh, no, not her stream.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
one on the strangers. It's a montage.
Jackson, why do you have to be
Oh,
such
Luke
a
was being a
Scott
douche?
Speedman in the Felicity, where he just
Uh-huh.
likes to call people dicks. So
Nice.
there's a montage of that at the end. That's
Luke,
pretty good.
I've known Luke a long time, and he's definitely not a douche. He's not.
No, I'm
He's a nice guy. He's one of the nice guys. But yeah,
I'm no.
we're
douche.
talking about a movie of all kinds of characters and classes, though. There's a couple nice guys in there, but this is a my gosh, this is a special film, like you said, Bo. I'm glad. This is one of those movies. When you think of the Vietnam War, and you think of the famous movies, right? You think Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse Now, and Platoon, right? I think those are the three big ones. And it was a real pleasure for us to watch this for kind of the first time, and at least revisiting it to some extent. And for people that aren't aware of what the story is, for whatever reason, it's definitely worth checking out. I think all of us are going to give it a glowing reference. It came out in 1986. It was Apocalypse Now came out in 79, so that was 7 years later. This is, of course, Charlie Sheen instead of Martin Sheen for Apocalypse Now. We're following his son, Charlie Sheen, who plays kind of a similar role, really. But he goes by Chris Taylor. He's a young soldier who is recently arriving to Vietnam, and he's searching for purpose. And he doesn't really realize what he's about to get himself into, because although the enemy surrounds him and the jungle itself is a beast to conquer, he has to deal with a lot of internal issues that happen between two different sergeants that end up blowing up the entire situation that much more worse. And it's a dramatic tale of deception and betrayal that I think really shakes audiences to the core. It certainly did for me. I imagine all of us probably feel the same. I always like starting off these streams by talking about everyone's experiences with the film, because that's something so special about movies, and the storytelling of film is how it impacts you when you watch it, right? You watched a film when you were a child or an adult, and it speaks to you. So I'm kind of wondering what your first impressions were of Platoon when you saw it the first time. If it was recent, if it was a while ago, did it have an impact on you?
I'm gonna say, well, it's so fresh. I just saw this literally like 3 hours ago. It was definitely the most harsh war movies I've seen when it comes to their own, what do you call it? The platoon, their own group. There were two groups like essentially. It was almost like a civil war going on inside of their own group, which really hit hard because there's a lot of bullying and a lot of harassment in this film, and it's tough seeing that with when they have all this other war to
right, like poor Charlie Sheen right off the bat. I mean, he does not get it easy. It takes him quite a while to get situated with the group. Nobody wants to be his friend until Willem Dafoe steps up. So yeah, it's hard to watch. What about you guys?
I just want to preference my statement first, though. My comments are purely about the movie. It's not about the military or anything like that, because halfway through this movie, I'm sitting back thinking, are we the bad guys here? When they torch that town, like, I don't know, what are we doing here anymore, guys?
Yeah, that was a tough scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right? It was like, most of these war movies portray us as the good guys, right? The protagonists. And I think sometimes we have some flaws, but, a lot of the time, there's some big moments in this movie like that one where it's like quite a few of the crewmates are actually doing some pretty shady stuff. And it makes you wonder, just how often that actually happened, right? And that's when Bo could step in and maybe explain if he has some thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, it's interesting. Luke said he only watched it 3 hours ago. I watched it something like 35 years ago.
Long time, big difference.
And I've watched it loads of times. I don't know, maybe 15 times, maybe.
Wow.
So I've actually got a bit of a backstory for this story. I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but I watched a couple of films way too young. RoboCop was one of them. And Platoon was another one where I was like 9-10 years old, and it was too explicit and too adult of a film. There's a bit at the beginning of RoboCop when ED 209 shoots up that guy in the ballroom. Have you seen RoboCop? You seen that film?
We need to watch that one too, man.
Okay, it's really, really gruesome, and I was like 9, and it was too much, and it like scarred my mind. In Platoon, there's a bit right near the beginning when Bunny, Dylan, what's his name? The actor who
Matt
plays
Dillon.
Bunny. Yeah. There's a bit at the beginning of that where they're in a hut, and a little old lady tries to sort of scurry to the defense of one of her children or grandchildren, and Bunny just smashes her head in, kills her with the butt of his gun, and he finds it amusing. He says something like, "Man, have you ever seen a head come apart like that before?" And he's smirking and laughing about it. He's amused by it. And again, as like a 9-year-old, that sort of like affected me a bit. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything that sort of visceral and real and horrifying, really. Yeah, it's one of the all-time great war movies, let alone Vietnam War movies. It's great. And of course, the story of Oliver Stone and his service. Chris Taylor is very much Oliver Stone in all sorts of ways. But yeah, so I'm here to talk about this. You talk about some massacres and things. My Lai is the famous one. I don't know if you guys know much about the war. But yeah, if I can help shed any light on things, I of course will do.
Great. Sweet. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm excited to get your perspective. 35 years, that's a long time. Much longer than us. That's cool. What about you, Kyle?
This is the first time I've seen it.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
At the start of it, I actually was not engaged for the first half hour or so. It started to feel similar to the portion of Full Metal Jacket after you leave the training, where you're just kind of meandering about. But once that village attack sequence occurred, it completely switched, and my engagement in the film lasted all the way to the end.
Yeah, that wakes you up, scares you straight.
It was disturbing. Yeah.
I feel like that when I think of that scene, I think of the pivotal scene in Apocalypse Now when they're riding in the boat and they come across the other boat with the Vietnamese in there, and they're not doing anything wrong, and they call them up and they search the boat, and then they freak out and they fire into the boat and kill everybody. that was sort of one of those pivotal moments. I couldn't stop thinking about that with this. And then you got literally Charlie Sheen here in this movie, and he's giving a a narration in the background, giving the context. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing some patterns here. I don't know if it's meant to be there or not, but this movie definitely doesn't beat Apocalypse Now for me. Apocalypse Now is one of my favorite films of all time, and I think Charlie Sheen does a great job, but I think it's hard to put those two together because they are very different, right? Apocalypse Now is really psychological and it's sort of out of this world, almost fantastical, and this one's more of a thriller kind of drama in that sense. But it's interesting. We all have different experiences with it. I know watching it again, or watching it after having it spoiled, kind of ruins it a little bit, like I said, because there's some huge reveals in here, and the way this works is we're going to kind of break down the story into chapters as we normally do, and I'm going to ask everybody different questions about it. But something have
you guys ever seen Hot Shots or Hot Shots Part 2? Have you ever seen those films, comedy films? There's a bit because Apocalypse Now is very, very different. It's based on a Joseph Conrad short story, Heart of Darkness, whereas Platoon is much more Oliver Stone's lived experience almost. But in Hot Shots Part 2, you've got Charlie Sheen and Martin Sheen cross each other in boats in Vietnam, and they both say at the same time, "I loved you in Wall Street."
Oh, that's great.
They're both in Wall Street.
That's awesome.
That's quite a meta movie nerd joke, but
I want to see them in a movie together. I've never seen that.
They've both made excellent Vietnam films. Yeah.
Brawler, at this rate, you're going to have to do 2 streams a week to get through all these movies because you're missing some classics here.
Hey, we got forever, man. We got forever. We're working on. We're cutting them down each week. We got time. I'm not going anywhere. But just to start, story wise, we follow Charlie Sheen here, and at first he's like real bright eyed and optimistic. He volunteered to go to war in this story. At least that was my impression. Mm-hmm. And, he wanted to go to be a hero. You know what I mean? He didn't want to just schlep around, do some boring job, half-ass it. He wanted to go here and be a hero. And, as he realizes right off the bat that this is this terrain and the situation that is war is so overwhelming. And this is something, I definitely admire about this movie is how immersive it is. I mean, you just get sucked right into this world. It seems like a totally different, new, hostile world that's so foreign to our own, because literally it is. He's plowing through the jungle for the first time. He's overwhelmed by, the blood-curdling heat, humidity, the insects, just being exhausted, utterly exhausted, getting no sleep. And, we see him right off the bat, really vulnerable. He's out of breath. He's pissed off, and it was weird. Like, we start with this character. We don't know anything about him. We just kind of throw him right into the action, and as he's like, touring through the woods, he's utterly exhausted, and he passes out on the spot. I don't know if you guys remember that. That always stuck out to me. It was an odd note to see him so weak in the very beginning, just utterly weak. And I'm kind of wondering what you guys think about this. And Bo, you being the history guy, you could maybe tell me if this is like a character, like a character flaw, or maybe this has to do with the training. But I'm kind of wondering, what does his first day in action tell us about how unprepared he was as a soldier entering this war? Because he had some expectations going in, but it didn't seem like all of this really hit him until he was there. And we see him literally pass out from all of these elements bothering him. So what do you guys think?
Being over prepared sometimes is not a good thing, which he was. He was holding all these unnecessary items. As you could see when he was walking up the hill out of breath, they were saying, "You don't need this, you don't need that." He had too many expectations, as anyone would. He was thrown right into this, and that was his biggest weakness, was trying too hard.
Well, I'm kind of wondering. Oh wait, Joe.
I was to say, why did he have so many? I think you said perfectly, like being unprepared or bad training. But yeah, he went in there with all this stuff in his bag, and Willem Dafoe saying like, "Oh, you don't need this." At one point, I thought Willem was robbing him because he kept taking all of his stuff. But why was he allowed to go with this bag filled with stuff if it's just going to be a problem?
Yeah, why did they let him pass with that? That's a good question.
Yeah, he had a small library in his backpack.
Exactly. Like later on, when they're doing the, one guy staying up at nighttime, they only have one guy staying up while everyone else is asleep. It's like, why not have two guys just in case?
Yeah, right. Well, how would that hurt?
One thing I would say is that fighting in the jungle theatre is some of the most difficult combat it's possible to have. I don't know if any of you chaps have ever been to the jungles of Southeast Asia at all.
No.
So anyway,
No.
I have. I've been to Cambodia and I've been to Thailand. Literally those same jungles, and it's difficult to describe the heat, the humidity. It really is like a sauna, exactly like a sauna. Now fighting in jungle is some of the most difficult fighting it's possible to do. The British had a lot of experience in Malaya, in the Malaya campaigns of the 1950s. And of course, there's the fighting in Burma in World War II. So it's not that just Charlie Sheen is unprepared. It's that most militaries are unprepared. It's extremely, extremely difficult. For example, just one little example, is that in Malaya in the 50s, the SAS, British Special Forces, Special Air Service, it took them months and months and months to just realise exactly the sort of things that Charlie Sheen goes through there. Oh, what you have to do is travel as light as possible. What you have to do is actually try and become one with the jungle. Don't try and fight the jungle. Don't try and stay clean and stay dry. You can't. You will lose that battle. You have to become one with the battle. So the experience of US Marines and the US Army in Vietnam was a very, very, very harsh one. I mean, broadly speaking, very, very broadly speaking, by 1967, 1968, the Marines, because Oliver Stone was in the army, but these are Marines, aren't they? So it's a very different thing, but nonetheless, the Marines were sent on kind of endless search and destroy missions, which is, just in terms of the military history, really odd, right? Marines, first and foremost, are supposed to protect Navy vessels, right? That's purely their role. Of course, the US Marines have done way more than that. They're fighting in the Japanese islands in World War II, for example. But why have we got US Marines going through the jungles of Indochina again and again and again and getting themselves ambushed again and again and again? What the hell? What is that about? That's how did we get there? That's a crazy thing. And I won't bother going into all of that because I could do an hour on that. The point is the fact, I think it's a great little touch in the script that they start with that they're ducks out of water, that they're US Marines in the middle of the jungle. Yeah, they don't really know what they're doing. They're unprepared. They're fighting a counterinsurgency guerrilla warfare in the jungle, and they're not equipped for it. So yeah, straight off the bat, I think it's a great touch, and all of that is said really just by showing that Charlie Sheen, a young, fit man, extremely young, he's like 20, 21 years old, as a lot of these boys were in real life. Oliver Stone was only about 20 odd. They're usually extremely young boys, these guys, and they're as fit as they can be, and yet still you will just pass out in the jungles because it's some of the most difficult fighting it's possible to do. So anyway, that was my feelings on that.
Gosh, man, that's a great point. I wondered about that. Yeah, I think like, I mean, you think of the army with like ground combat, right? And that was something that always perplexed me. Marines, when you think of the Marines, they're associated with the ships, but yes, you have them, shipping off to Japan doing ground combat, right? Then you have them here again in Vietnam. And, in like recent years, like our military history, it doesn't seem like the army, like why don't the Marines just do everything at that point? I mean, if it involves the ship, they're going overseas and they're doing ground battle, then why don't you just always have the Marines do that? That was something that always perplexed me. So that's interesting. But as I was talking about earlier, nobody's taking Charlie Sheen's character very seriously in the beginning here. I think a lot of that, which this was sort of the idea I got from Band of Brothers, about World War II, was that, you know, the guys who'd been in the shit for a long time, they were almost afraid to make new friends because, you know, they thought they would just die anyway. I think that might have been the case here with Sheen. You know, the group wasn't initially that interested in bonding with him. And, you know, he was the new guy, and he was definitely treated as the freshman for a long time until Willem Dafoe introduced himself, Sergeant Elias. And, you know, he's one of those, he's the real hero in this story. You know, he's probably the more iconic role than Charlie Sheen throughout the rest of this movie. And, you know, surrounded by a backdrop of, like, you know, angry pushers, he kind of offers a mentoring hand to Charlie Sheen, which is, you know, it propels him into gaining other friendships and becoming one with the group as well. So I guess I'm kind of wondering what you guys think is the reason why Elias was so compassionate towards Sheen while everyone else could care less. What do you think that was for?
I think he wanted to bang Charlie Sheen.
Oh,
honestly,
nice.
That scene, I was sitting with my wife, and that scene where he's getting high and he's like, he pulls his
oh
gun, and I was
gosh,
like, wow, you suck on it. My wife is going,
I know, like
you was giving him
shady,
the looks
bro.
the entire time.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Clarify, who do you think wanted to?
Willem Dafoe's character. I'm terrible with names.
He's talking
Elias,
about the smoking
Elias.
scene when Willem Dafoe's giving him the eyes. You don't remember that?
No,
Oh,
I
yeah,
do. I did not get that sense though.
Oh my god.
No.
Chat,
That must
what
have
do
been
you
World War
think?
Joe's fantasy or something.
Willem Dafoe is just so captivating. In fact, he's actually the best character in this movie. So much so, I think his performance, it made me want to watch more Willem Dafoe movies again, and new ones that I haven't seen.
He's great.
I was
Yeah.
feeling the same way.
It's fantastic in
Yeah.
this.
I think you were right to say that Elias steals the film in various ways.
Oh yeah,
And I think I've always thought that Elias and Barnes are two archetypes. They're archetypal characters. Barnes is your classic, almost cliched, evil soldier,
Mhm.
evil murderer soldier. And Elias is your classic archetype of a good, just soldier. And those archetypes are in us all, right? We're all capable of monstrous things if push comes to shove. And most of us, anyway, are all actually good, capable of good and just moral action. And I'm pretty sure, even though Oliver Stone has said in interviews that they're largely based on real people that he met, nonetheless, Barnes and Elias are, I think, two sides of the same coin. And I think, even if I recall rightly, towards the end of right at the end of the film, I think Charlie Sheen's character says that they both live in me. That they both are exemplars of my experience of the war, the dirty, brutal, nasty side, unforgiving side, and the compassionate side that was trying to do something good. But I absolutely agree that Elias steals the film, and you root for him. Of course, he's the hero, isn't he? And Barnes is the anti-hero. But yeah, Willem Dafoe. Well, both Berenger and Dafoe deliver absolutely superb performances in this film.
Yeah, they do a good job playing against each other, right? And they butt heads a lot.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a single moment in time when they ever get along, even from the beginning. But you know, something I give Elias credit to, and I'm kind of wondering about this, you know, because he was being the friendly one. No one else was putting themselves up on the line to meet and befriend Sheen, who desperately needed some sort of mentorship here, being thrown into this hell that he really has not been trained to tackle properly. And it makes me wonder if that compassion makes him the strongest one in the group, because he hasn't let like the pain of his losses destroy who he really is. Because I imagine naturally he's a compassionate guy. I bet all these guys were. I bet they were all great guys before, but possibly, you know, this is all like, you know, theory, right? But I mean, I imagine maybe they were all just broken down enough through loss and pain and what's the word? You know, being exhaustion. Just they no longer have any goodwill left in them that they shed. They don't have the energy for that.
stripped down.
Yeah, stripped down and fatigued. That was the word I was thinking of. So yeah, I think maybe he was a little stronger in that sense, that he was able to offer his energy in that way. Because I mean, it's a lot of energy bringing someone new into the mix, especially somebody I wouldn't want to have to introduce somebody to all of the the annoyances that you're going to have to learn in the field, especially knowing that, you know, there's no telling if they're going to be here tomorrow, if they're going to send 5 more of these people the next day. So I could see how that could be a mantle people don't want to take up. But, you know, we're talking about, you know, Sergeant Barnes, or you're talking about him a little bit. And of course, yeah, he's practically a heartless, battle-hardened warrior at this point. And he doesn't really have much humanity left in him. There's small little pockets of humanity you see where he, you know, little instances, hints of a man in there. And, you know, you can't blame him for being a shattered person like this. It sounds like, well, they reveal that he's been in the battlefield for 10 years. My gosh, or he's been fighting for 10 years to my understanding. That's a long time. And, you know, he really values his position, his power. And he definitely is more interested in throwing the platoon into more aggressive and reckless maneuvers than Elias. Because Elias, he always offers, he seems to offer more passive ideas, except when he's going off on his little lonesome missions that he goes off on his own. While, you know, Barnes, he's kind of cool with taking the rough route. And people listen to him. You know what I mean? They listen to him and they respect him. And later on, I want to get into why. I want to get into their leaderships, because they're very different. And, you know, one obviously trumps the other because, you know, he's, you know, the overbearing person. But, you know, something that kind of made me wonder about Barnes was from the get-go with Elias and with Martin or Charlie Sheen's character, Chris.
Yeah.
He doesn't get along with them and he doesn't like them. So I imagine he's had some experience with Elias before. That's not really said here in this situation. And I kind of wonder, what does he have against these two people? Why is he so antagonistic right off the bat? Do you guys have any ideas?
Well, he thinks the character of Tom Berenger's character, Barnes, is hardened through his experience. You see that he has scars on his face, and he thinks that any portion of compassion that anyone has is a sign of weakness that will get themselves killed and also others killed. But that compassion is something that separates the nihilistic from the American army. And that's what makes all the difference when you go into a war, is you don't leave your morals, you know, on the plane or whatever transport you get off of. You take them with you.
I'm glad you brought up that scar, because obviously he's been through something terrible. I mean, that's a pretty nasty scar. Looked like it was a deep cut. He maybe was captured.
I think Oliver Stone said that there was a guy in one of his platoons that was shot in the face, and I think that's who he was supposed to represent. Am I right about that, Bo? I just listened to a video about Oliver Stone. He was talking with Joe Rogan. I think he dropped that bomb.
Yeah, Barnes, most of the characters are based loosely, one way or another, on real people that he met or parts of him. And yeah, Tom Berenger apparently had to go through a couple of hours a day of having that scar put on. It's not a real scar. Yeah, so Barnes is supposed to be a completely battle-hardened veteran. And just to say, I hate to nitpick, but they're not soldiers, they're Marines. It's not the army, they're Marines. I only say that just because real veterans always make a point of saying that. But anyway, I won't bang on that. But
good to know.
Yeah, the point is, that yeah, Barnes is battle hardened. Right now, let's remember, this is the Cold War. Right, this is supposed to be 1967, 1968, and a lot of people forget. People of our generation, people in the 2020s or in the 21st century, they forget. And if you're not old enough, I'm not even old enough, right? You'd have to be in your 60s really to remember the Cold War, remember what it was like. Okay, nowadays, it seems a bit silly, almost a little bit frivolous. It seems wrong-headed and obviously wrong for the United States to go to somewhere like French Indochina or Southeast Asia, to go to somewhere like Vietnam, on the argument of the domino theory. Like, North Vietnam has fallen to communism. Korea not that long before, about 10 years or so before, had fallen to communism. And we must make a stand. This is what LBJ argued. We must make a stand in South Vietnam to prevent communism from taking over South Vietnam. And we'll be prepared to send hundreds of thousands of soldiers and Marines. We'll be prepared to drop more ordnance and bombs on North Vietnam than we dropped in the whole of World War II. Nowadays, in the 2020s, that seems crazy. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Why would the United States do that? But what you've got to remember is it was part of the Cold War, and where they really did think that it was possible that Red China and the Soviet Union, as was, would take over the world. And it was the job of the United States to prevent that. No one else could do it. The British Empire had fallen apart. The British weren't strong anymore in geopolitical terms. There's no one else could do it. It was up to the United States to prevent the whole world falling to communism. And again, this sounds, to our mind, this sounds crazy. That can't be true. That's fantastic. But no, that was really, really what they thought. And so the net result of all of that is, once again, they sent over hundreds of thousands of men. And at any given time, tens of thousands of them are in country, so to speak. And if you do that, if you fight it's a dirty, no holds barred guerrilla war, right? You end up with men like Barnes, who have seen their buddies killed out of nowhere. Have seen, like, you walk into a village and people that you thought were your friends, people that you thought you were there to be liberating, shoot you in the back or blow you up out of nowhere. And you only have to have a few experiences like that before you turn into a Barnes. And that's one of the great things about this film, is that it's so real, that Oliver Stone wrote these characters into it. That it's not a Hollywood glossy, everyone's a good guy, a clean-cut all-American, and everyone's got perfect morals, and everyone does the right thing at all times. No, because that's not what counterinsurgency warfare is. That's not what guerrilla warfare is. No, it's down and dirty and mean and nasty. And you end up with men like Barnes. And so it's a brilliantly realized character for me, brilliantly written. And once again, Berenger plays it amazingly.
Well, Bo, yeah, I definitely, my follow-up question is, I'm definitely curious to know your interpretation of this, given what you just said. Do you think, and this goes for everybody, do you think that, because he's so jaded and cold, which, is justifiably so because of those reasons you said, do you think he cares about his men? Because we don't really see him. It doesn't seem like he's particularly concerned. He doesn't really show concern for the other men based on his, like, I don't know. He doesn't really ever have any sort of positive interactions with anybody where he's kind of putting their safety in front of his own, or, in place of the mission. What do you think about that?
I actually have a scene about. Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle, you first.
Well, this guy has said in a line that he even calls to Elias, he calls it his war. Don't fuck up my war. Don't fuck around with my war. His mission, his concern is for the war, not anyone else, not human beings.
Right.
Wow.
He doesn't care about the
which is ironic. It shows that Barnes is actually talking down to somebody. He does it to a lieutenant who's actually above his rank,
the lieutenant, of course.
And he's doing it to a peer of Elias, who's also a sergeant as well.
Oh, you're talking about Elias.
Elias. I work with someone who that's how you.
I was wondering who
you're
you're talking about for a second. No, you're good.
Yeah, Elias. You're right. They do pronounce it Elias in this.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Joe?
Or Elias? Now I'm confused.
There was one scene where after that guy gets his arms blown off with the booby trap, and Charlie Sheen walks by, and Barnes is just sitting there by himself. They make eye contact for a second, and Charlie just lets him go back to what he was doing. I like that scene there because it just shows that he is probably one of the most badass characters I've seen in a very long time, but he can just have that moment of, let me just collect my thoughts. So I'm wondering, was it more of he's upset that the individual died, or just someone in the platoon itself died? That's what I was kind of curious about that.
He looked pretty upset. But we don't see him with like I don't think we see him interact with that victim very much before this. So that's a good question.
Yeah, I think it was just the idea that someone died and we're down a few men. It could have literally happened to anyone.
I think it's very interesting that the character of Barnes is almost devoid of humanity. Very much so. That he's so sort of grizzled by his experiences that he seems to care relatively little about them. One small point, I just see someone in chat say that it is the army in this and they're not Marines.
Oh, they are the army. Oh, that's
yeah, I have got that mistaken nonetheless. So one thing I would say, that whether it's the Marines or the army, is the concept of NCOs, non-commissioned officers. And I've seen Oliver Stone say this in an interview on Joe Rogan, actually. But many accounts say this exact thing for more than 100 years, is that in reality, in combat ground fighting, if you're a normal grunt, if you're a normal soldier or Marine, it's the sergeants that rule your world. Okay, the non-commissioned officers. It's your staff sergeant or somebody like that you take your orders from and that you live with, and that is your leader in real time, in real terms, the vast majority of the time. Oliver Stone said he hardly ever had any interaction with officers. Right, and that is an account that is mirrored again and again and again and again when you read military history, first-hand primary sources, first-hand accounts of it. There's a great part in the movie, which I think is very, very illustrative, where there is a young lieutenant, a young officer, and I can't remember if it's Barnes or Elias asked him, and he just says, "I don't care anymore," and walks away.
Oh yeah,
you know that bit. So
Lieutenant Wolf, I think,
and that's very real. That's sort of a very real thing, because so often the junior officers, second lieutenants, and the such, they come out of somewhere like West Point, and they're still extremely young themselves. They're still extremely young and can't always necessarily handle the stresses of war. Whereas your grizzled sergeant in his 30s, who's been there for 10 years or whatever, it devolves onto them. And so when you see Elias and Barnes take up sort of real leadership roles, when they're making decisions, what's actually going to happen next, it's the NCOs that make those decisions. And yeah, some of them, again, in real life, some of them live and die for their men. And some of them don't give a shit.
Yeah.
To be fair, the latter are more rare in the US Army anyway. But of course they existed. And once again, Barnes is sort of an archetype of that type of sergeant.
Wow. I'm glad you brought up Lieutenant Wolf. That was always one of those interesting characters because he does have power over Barnes. And we're going to get into that later because I want to talk about why, like, their strange relationship, because Barnes obviously has no respect for Wolf. And, Barnes ends up committing a crime soon, which we'll talk about, that he gets the backing of Lieutenant Wolf, which is kind of strange. At least that was my impression, that he has his back during that whole issue, which is really odd, considering he's the leader of this platoon. So you're saying, like, Lieutenant Wolf, it didn't look like he had like any battle experience before that. Do you think that was the case?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it ever explicitly says, but he is certainly supposed to be green, isn't he? He's certainly very young. You get the impression that he's come straight from officer training corps. He's come, whether it's West Point or not. But yeah, you get the feeling that he's extremely green. I don't think it ever explicitly says whether this is his first tour or not. Yeah.
Okay. Who out of the two leaders, between Elias and Barnes, did you guys think garnered the most respect from the platoon?
It was pretty evenly divided amongst the platoon for various reasons. There were some people, I think, that wanted to do some good but leave. I think that's in the camp of Chris Taylor, Charlie Sheen's character. and the other side with Barnes, they want to kick some fucking ass, you know? And that whole scene in the village is exemplary of that. When you have a majority of people that are there at that moment are engaging in all of this, which essentially amounts to a war crime. And Barnes does multiple war crimes in this movie. So, because you mentioned earlier, he's going to do like one. No, he's a participant in multiples, which makes you think, what else has he done off screen before the movie started? So, yeah. I don't think that's his first time doing, things that would completely cause him to have getting some reprimanding or being thrown in jail, etc. Yeah.
I'm wondering if his facial injury maybe had something to do with like his madness as well. That would be interesting if that played a part.
I believe Barnes is a senior rank to Elias, because there's all different types of sergeant. Right,
Okay.
there's sergeant first class, master sergeant, sergeant major, whatever. So Barnes is a staff sergeant, and Elias is just a sergeant. So he is a superior rank. That's why he's got some power over him.
Okay.
Because he's of a senior rank. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, that's good.
To Kyle's point, it's not a war crime. There's no witnesses, so
There was a lot of witnesses here, so yeah, definitely was.
The thing to add to that the village bit, where it's essentially a war crime. Very, very famously, there was the incident at Miley. This is real life, where something similar, very, very similar, happened. Bunch of, I can't remember if they were Marines or soldiers, but they went into a village and committed some sort of atrocity. Incidentally, only a few men were ever charged with any sort of crime, and ultimately Nixon pardoned them.
Yeah,
So
I bet he did.
Anyway, but that's one famous incident of that. But apparently it went on quite a lot. And in fact, Oliver Stone said that he experienced something similar himself, something that never sort of blew up in the news back home in the United States and became a big thing that's in the history books. Like you'll find a Wikipedia page all about the Miley massacre. But it would have happened a lot more and essentially gone under the radar. As I say, even Oliver Stone said he experienced something similar. So again, this is counterinsurgency warfare. It's what it's like. Their job is to search and destroy North Vietnamese combatants, or the Viet Cong. And that's an extremely difficult thing. That's almost an impossible task, because they can disappear. They don't wear a uniform. They don't turn up and say, we are NVA. We are loyal to Marxist Leninism. And we are soldiers of Ho Chi Minh. No, they will look like and behave exactly like any other villager. So that's a nightmare then for the job of the US Army or the US services in Southeast Asia. That's nightmarish. How do you know who's your enemy and who isn't? Well, you end up with men like Barnes, and you end up having to do extreme. We don't have to, but you end up doing it quite extreme things. You go in and you terrorize a village, make them tell you who is and who isn't the enemy. They're your orders. That's your job. That's why you're there. You know, there's a bit where Barnes grabs a little girl, a child, and puts the gun to her head, and he's screaming at the village elders. Who's VC? Who's VC? Yeah, again, it's very, very real. That's why this film is a great film, because that's horrible and harrowing, but it's real. That's how it went down very often. And what else can you do if you're fighting a war? You know, if you don't get these guys, they'll get you. It's life and death for you. You get ambushed 10 minutes into the jungle if you don't do these sorts of things. So yeah, it's horrible and harrowing, but there it is.
Yeah, well, I think, you make great points. And that's something that I guess is so interesting about like this time period, right? Or this war is, there's just like nothing goes in the way of these soldiers. There's no comfort there, constant heat, humidity, exhaustion. And then you have, the natives. You don't know who's good or bad, and most of them don't like you. And you watch, even if you have moments of trust, I mean, everything is just backsided with, possibilities of betrayal and deceit. You think of, what is it, Good Morning Vietnam? I'm pretty sure I saw that, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And I remember Robin Williams having a similar situation where he befriends like a younger Vietnamese kid or like a young man or something. And then it turns out that they are VC. And then he gets really pissed off. And I remember that being a big deal because they were really gelling well together, and they had a good relationship. But all that was for nothing because he was one of the bad guys the whole time. So yeah, that's definitely. I just can't imagine how exhausting that whole situation would be, and especially seeing these VC. I mean, they were brutal too. I don't think this movie I don't think it showed how brutal the VC were from other depictions I've seen, like with their booby traps and such. I mean, they were vicious predators. And that's something else to take into account is, these soldiers, they see their friends and, their allies torn apart and totally massacred just right in front of their eyes by these little Vietnamese people. And yeah, I just can't imagine how exhausting that is. Before we go on to the next part of the story, I just want to say,
can I just make a quick point on that? Because a lot of Vietnam movies are sort of a little bit from the bleeding heart, not that Platoon is, but a lot of them can be a little bit bleeding heart liberal narrative of that the Americans are just the baddies and they shouldn't have ever been there, and what a wrong-headed war it was. And the Vietnamese, particularly North Vietnamese, haven't done anything wrong. Well, that is nonsense. That is historically inaccurate. There's an amazing book by historian Max Hastings, one of the greatest historians of the late 20th and early 21st century, Max Hastings. And in that book, it talks a lot about the war crimes that the Viet Cong did. The terrible, terrible things that the Viet Cong did. You think something like the My Lai massacre is bad. You think some of the things the US soldiers did in Vietnamese villages was horrible and harrowing. Nothing compared to what some of the communist guerrillas did. Truly horrific. There's that famous bit in Apocalypse Now, isn't there, when Marlon Brando says they came off and they chopped all the arms off the inoculated children. Yeah. Stuff like that.
Exactly.
So, I don't like the idea that America's the baddie really in this. No, they were trying to do something good. That's my view of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Thanks for supporting me. I'm glad you have my back on that, because I think that's sort of one of those untouched notes, and that's kind of what Platoon was. It didn't really it didn't get into that very much, but different sides of the story, right? Different perspectives. Let's just say hi to everybody. Emperor Goodwin, he was busting my balls in the last stream. Good to see you. It was fun listening to you on Plot's channel. That was cool. So good seeing you, man. The only one that can kill Barnes is Barnes. That's actually not true. So yep, and this movie proves that. Let's see.
Although there was an alternate ending.
Oh,
was there really?
I haven't seen that. Dang.
We'll get to it.
All right, yeah, bring that up later. Parked Files here. Brawler prefers the boys. Hell yeah, let's go. Nice Parked File. Scottish Geek Guy's here. It's awfully late over there. What's up, man? Howdy, folks. Good seeing you, bro. We want you back on, Scottish. We want you back on. Let's find a date. Yep. Oh, he says up late here in Scotland, so won't be on for long. Just stop by to say this is my generation's Apocalypse Now. Cool, man. They really weren't that far apart, the movie, 79 to 86. But, I mean, I guess that could be just a whole different generation experiencing it at a different time. And here we are talking about it now. And Gen Z, Gen Alpha, way worse than Gen Z, just so everybody knows. Yeah, we're doing good, though, Proc File. Thanks for joining us. Good seeing you, bro. Oh, yes. And Proc File's happy to see you on here, History Bro. Oh, damn. Haven't seen History Bro for a while. Glad to have you here. Hell yeah, it's a pleasure. Then we got Helen Duffield, 6347. Hi, y'all. Hello, Helen. Thanks for joining us. I think this is your first time chatting with us, so we appreciate you watching. Cass is here, of course. Luke definitely won me over with his kindness and charm. But why do you have to be such a dick? Inside joke, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's catching on.
Yeah, it's catching on. Word spreading. Oh, that's cool. Scottish Geek Guy says they talk in the DVD extras how Tom Berenger liked his prosthetic scar so much he asked the makeup team to keep it on him even when he wasn't filming. That's awesome. It's pretty cool. I don't know how they do that. Make that big divot in your cheek like that. That's crazy.
You just raise they have a raised prosthetic, so the skin on the prosthetic will be, further away from the real skin, so then it gives the impression of that. I did detect that it was a prosthetic when he was supposed to be yelling at the villagers. He's not really opening his mouth really wide. If he did, then you would have seen it probably
flare or something. Oh, crap.
Start to tear off, yeah. So he was being careful when he was doing his performance, the actor, that he was yelling, but he wasn't opening his mouth really wide.
Yeah.
So,
good.
That's a detail I noticed.
Good notice there.
Berenger did engage in some quite deep character acting for this. In other words, staying in the character of Barnes, even when they're not rolling.
Oh, nice.
Dustin Hoffman is famous. A few actors are famous for doing that. And Tom Berenger did that. And apparently, even his wife said that after shooting, he came back because I think they filmed it largely in the Philippines. Anyway, when he came back, he was like a different guy, and it took him a couple of months to return to the man she knew.
That's crazy.
That's how deep he got into the character.
Wow, a couple months. Jeez. Yeah, you better.
John Berthel has that problem too with the Punisher. He says when he's filming, he doesn't even talk to his family because he's always just in a mood.
Yikes. Yeah, the lady's not happy about that. That's for sure. He's a bit of a douche. Yeah, and Barnes, I don't want to live with Barnes. That would not be good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'd like to hang out with Elias, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too, man. It's funny you said that, Kyle, about watching more Willem Dafoe movies because I'm going to rewatch Lighthouse because of that. I'm a big fan of Lighthouse. Have you seen that?
I started watching it and I didn't get back to it because it just became so esoteric and weird.
Yeah,
but that's Robert Eggers for you. I
right.
encourage that guy to just get a little bit more, just make it more palatable to mainstream audiences and stop having the weird chanting scenes. Usually it's in front of a campfire.
Yeah, he's pretty freaky. I don't care about the rest of his stuff, but I'm a big fan of Lighthouse. We might talk about that eventually. But Rebel Rose is here too. Evening, gentlemen. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Everybody's talked in the chat. Thank you all for sharing your opinions. Jay is here. And Jay says Barnes does really care about his men. That's good. I think he does too. I can't imagine he loses that aspect of his of what he does, because he loves fighting and he loves being in this position. And I'm so glad, Bo, you mentioned how he's a staff sergeant. That totally went over my head, because I always wondered when he would talk with Elias. Elias, it seemed like he had an idea as to what they should do. He had a directive, but Barnes, he always superseded him. And I thought it was more so like, my balls are bigger than yours, so listen to me. But he actually had authority. That's good to know. He had agency.
Do you think Barnes could have returned back to a normal life after the war?
Fuck no.
Yeah.
No.
It's his life.
It's an interesting point. Of course, today we have PTSD, the concept of PTSD, don't we? Post-traumatic stress disorder. Even in the 60s and 70s, that wasn't a thing. I mean, they had the idea, they had the concept of sort of combat stress. Going back even to World War I, there's the idea of being shell-shocked. But the idea that there's a full-blown psychological malady of PTSD wasn't a thing. I've heard Oliver Stone talk about that. And yeah, someone like Barnes is deep suffering from trauma. They really are suffering from trauma, because it is sometimes the case that you get someone in the army who would have been a serial killer had they not been in the army, right? But that's very, very, very rare. Most men that turn out to be like Barnes, i.e. sort of a ruthless, pitiless killer, right? It's their trauma that has made them that way. And yeah, he's seen too much. back in World War One, World War Two, they would say you had a bad war. Yeah, that you're psychologically wounded forever. Yeah, and these men, you don't really ever get over it. It's something that you would just ever learn to live with. PTSD, you learn to live with it. And time is a great healer, but you need a lot of time depending on how bad your war was. But yeah, Barnes is obviously traumatized and suffering from PTSD, unless that is he's just a complete psychopath and sociopath, which I don't think he was. I don't think he's supposed to be. I don't think the men that Oliver Stone came across that were like Barnes were. It is rare. It is super rare.
I think Barnes's character, I think he was sort of like, I don't know, because I listened to that interview Joe Rogan had with Oliver Stone right before this, and it was
I was going to look at a clip of that before we
it's
did this.
Worth watching. Everybody check that out if you're more curious about his story. And a really good interview. And he was talking about, he said Elias was based on one character. He knew a guy that was just like Elias, and he didn't know him too well, but he had a lot of respect for him, and he based the character mostly on those virtues that he had, that one guy that he knew. And then I'm pretty sure what he said about Barnes was he was like he was a composite of like many different people involved in his life. Did you know about that, Bo? Is that true, or was he like just one character?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he's a lot of the characters are composites. I mean, Chris Taylor is vaguely based on a real person, but it's obviously a composite of Oliver Stone's experiences. You know, Charlie Sheen is Oliver Stone in all sorts of ways. And yeah, the Barnes and Elias characters, many of the other characters are composites. Yeah, I mean, Oliver Stone served in the infantry and the cavalry. He was in if memory serves, he was in the 25th Infantry Division. Wow. And then later, after he got a Purple Heart for being wounded in action, shot through the neck.
Wow.
Very lucky to survive. Later, he transferred to the 1st Cavalry Division.
So is that like tanks?
Some were, but he wasn't. Yeah, often cavalry or air cavalry can be helicopters. Yeah, sometimes, but he wasn't. He did a lot of what they say are called LRRP, long range reconnaissance patrols. When he was in the cavalry, the 1st Cavalry, and now that is remarkable. Something you've got to say about Oliver Stone is he's a genuine, a genuine war hero, right? He got a Bronze Star for gallantry in the face of the enemy. For showing dash and elan in the face of the enemy. He charged a sniper and killed a sniper who was pinning them down, and got a Bronze Star.
Wow.
With oak leaf clusters for that. So that's genuinely badass.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone in the chat has just said that the 1st Cavalry is air and armor. Yeah, largely, but not entirely. So as I say, Oliver Stone was in the 1st Cavalry when he was doing long-range reconnaissance patrols, not in a tank, on foot.
Oh, wow.
Now, long-range reconnaissance patrols are, I mean, nowadays, that would be a special forces role. Nowadays, that would be, in Britain anyway, that's the sort of thing that the SAS would do. That's the sort of thing that Delta Force in the United States might do. You're going out into the jungle in small units, very small gangs of men creeping through the forest. And I mean, does it get any more sort of up close and personal?
Yeah.
You know, that's real. That's a real combat experience for Oliver Stone. And well, look, no wonder he wanted to make a film about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, and that, you know, you telling the tale of his like brave act charging at the sniper. I feel like, you know, we don't see that exactly, but I mean, we get a scene towards the end, of course, when he like finds his courage and then he goes total Rambo. Sounds like he really was that way, and that it wasn't so much hyperbole. That's interesting. But, you know, I definitely want to get to this scene. So, you know, after, you know, being in the jungle for quite a bit, they suffered quite a few losses. You know, Joe mentioned it earlier. He had a bad slip where he fell asleep. Well, actually, you know, it wasn't even a slip. The guys, you know, they were like a holding point, and most of the men were asleep. This one dude was supposed to be on watch right after Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen got done with watch.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Junior.
Junior. Okay, yeah. So Junior was supposed to be on watch. He passes out. Charlie Sheen wakes up and he sees the enemy, and he's a little freaked out. And he doesn't do anything right off the bat. Someone else intervenes, and he gets pinned the blame on. It's all on him. And Junior, he just schlecked it off like nothing happened. So that was a rough scene for him. That was sort of like the beginning, sort of a reason why I thought that Barnes really didn't care for him much, was that he fell asleep on the job, right? When it was his job, his responsibility, even though it wasn't. But that happened. They lose a few more guys, and then eventually they make camp. And then this is when we get that bizarre scene where they start to take it easy at camp, right? And the group is clearly split into two totally different sides, right? And one side is Elias's team. They're known as the Heads here. The Heads, I don't know why that's their name. It's the crew. They're nestled down. They're doing drugs, and they're dancing till they can't feel pain anymore, right? Then on the other side of the camp, you have Barnes's guys, and they're known as the Juicers. And they're drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, and playing cards. And they're trash talking. Both, his group actually doesn't really seem like they're doing anything wrong. But two totally different groups. They're enjoying themselves. They're taking it easy. I'm kind of wondering, and we don't see that much into Barnes's group. We get just sort of like an accent of what they're like in their free time. We mostly spend a lot of time with Elias's team, as they're doing drugs and getting high and acting kind of freaky together.
I call that place the hot box.
Yeah. Oh, they call it the hot box? Yeah, it
I call it the hot box.
It is a hot box.
I call it that.
It's the hot box, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering, do you think other than this actually being part of Oliver Stone's experience, there was like a bigger meaning to be shown here? Or why did you think that this scene was part of the movie? Because it stands out, and really, there's nothing else like it for the rest of the movie.
I honestly thought it was like some sort of dream he was having. I mean, that just was thrown in my face. I'm like, what is going on? Why do they have the time? Why do they have the time for this right now?
It didn't drag on that much for me. It didn't go as far as to how Stone can go, and he went really far with The Doors. Many scenes of drug trips, etc. So this didn't bother me, and he didn't do the effects and transitions to make it look like everyone was high and blah 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 blah. By the way, this is Johnny Depp's favorite scene, probably. Yeah,
Nice.
It's like one of the first movies he was in, and I was very surprised to find that he was in this.
Yeah, he really blends in.
Yeah, no, he was. Not to me, because I could see what he was wearing with his long necklaces, and he's wearing wristbands and shit. He's already forming how his look is going to be for the rest of his career. So no, it didn't take too long, and it was establishing rapport among those men.
Yeah, I think two things. It's the classic setup of a protagonist or a set of protagonists and antagonists, a set of antagonists. That's what drama is. That there's tension between two camps or two people. So it's just screenwriting 101. But the other thing to point out is the theme of drugs. And Oliver Stone talks a lot about this. And whenever you read a book about the Vietnam War, it will almost certainly come up that a lot of these young men, and remember, most of them are very, very young. They could be 19 years old, 20, 21, 22 years old. A lot of them, especially if they volunteered, would have been sort of clean-cut all-American lads and may well not, even though it's the 60s, may well not have ever smoked weed and almost certainly never have done heroin. Right? And there was a heroin pandemic among people in Southeast Asia. Loads and loads and loads of clean-cut young American boys went to Vietnam and came back heroin addicts. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Okay, so Oliver Stone doesn't really touch on that, and it's not what this film is about, really. But everyone would have, not everyone, because you got the clean cut Barnes type, but a lot of them would go out there and you smoke weed. It's completely ubiquitous, and you go from having never really done weed to smoking weed all the time.
So that's all they were smoking down there. It looked like it was something way more serious than that, by the way Charlie Sheen was reacted.
Right, yeah. And so Oliver Stone just wanted to, again, seen him in interviews, he just wanted to add that element in. He didn't want to make a whole subplot about
Mm,
heroin addiction, but he did want to touch on the theme of drugs.
mm. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
really
always
appreciate Emperor Goodwin's comment there.
what the Taylor thing. This one,
Yeah.
Taylor is merely hallucinating Johnny Depp because we all know that he died in Nightmare on Elm Street prior to this movie. Nice.
I was surprised that they actually found the time to say, okay, I'm going to get high right now in the middle of a war zone at nighttime where the enemy could literally be anywhere. That would have been kind of interesting to see if they got attacked that night, how they would have reacted. That's what
That'd
I
be
thought was set
crazy.
up for.
Kind of like Full Metal Jacket.
Yep.
Well, these poor guys, geez, they got to hang loose a little bit, man. I like, if we insert ourselves into that position, it's such a scary thought. There's no room for comfort, and most of the time, none of these guys got any sleep at night either. And your life is on the line 24/7. It's insane. I mean, you could see why these stressful times made real men, right? I mean, here we are. Most guys are pretty soy. And we're not put in these situations. Look at us. Look at our generation, right? I mean, come on.
Well, this is part of why there's you look at even the movies growing up in the 90s, you would have the threats from the parents when the child is misbehaving and rebellious that they'll send them to military school. Not that they'll be sent overseas and shit to a war, but just that they'll have discipline instilled in them. So it's not necessarily we need a fucking war to start in order for people to grow the fuck up and have some discipline. It's just we need mentors in people's lives, and that branches off into single mother homes and different various social problems going on in the world.
Why don't you spend the next hour talking about that? That'd be cool.
Right. Yeah.
the trials of motherhood.
No, I'm talking about the fatherless homes in America. That's what I mean. Yeah, but that would branch off way too far away from the movie, and we wouldn't be talking about the issue with which is what the movie is discussing, which is war and what the hell is it good for?
Yeah.
There you go.
I think like something I admired about this scene is it clearly, we're talking about how it splits up the group. That's important. We got to know who's on whose side here. And, obviously Elias's side is the good side. I mean, that's just the way it is. He's such a likable character, and the guys that he's surrounded by are, they have similar virtue, right? And the same with Barnes. I mean, it's kind of clear, which side you want to choose. And, we got to learn Johnny Depp. He's with Elias. Forrest Whitaker, he's with Elias. Keith David, he's with Elias. Like all the cool guys are with Elias. And, we see a lot of those characters later on. And, we see Charlie Sheen develop relationships with them. And you also see him butt heads with a lot of those guys that are Barnes guys. And you can tell that most of them are definitely jaded too, especially, the young guy. I don't know his name, but he's a young white dude. And he's the one that, offs the one-legged VC dude and his like elderly mother or something like that. So, all those guys are kind of screwed up as well. So I thought I liked just getting a moment where we can clearly show who's with who. That was good. I have kind of a fun question for you guys. Maybe not fun, but interesting. Where do you think you would be in this situation? Do you think you like seriously, do you think you'd find yourself with Barnes's guys hanging out, drinking beers, playing cards with them? Would you be with Elias's side, kind of going crazy, dancing with them, or would you just be off on your own doing something?
Barnes.
Well, I wouldn't be smoking what they're smoking. I would be the only one drinking in the hot box,
There you go.
and I wouldn't be smoking anything else.
But
that's
nobody
not my
else is
thing.
drinking. They don't want you to drink in there. No drinking allowed.
Well, I would say, what the fuck's your problem, guys? Jeez, you're all fun loving, and then you try to kick me out because of what I choose to have.
A quick shout out to the John C. McGinley character O'Neill in Barnes's camp. O'Neill, the character O'Neill.
Is that the redheaded dude, or does he have a beard?
He's the guy that is John C. McGinley, isn't he?
He's Dr. Cox in Scrubs.
In Scrubs, yeah.
Come on, bro! You don't know that?
Scrubs. I ain't that old.
Anyway, it is a little bit of almost pardon me, almost comic relief in the film. A little bit is that, but I would absolutely be in the hot box, Elias. 100%.
Of course,
I don't smoke anymore, but when I was a young man, I smoked shitloads of weed. So
you'd have the gas mask on.
I'd definitely be in the Elias camp.
That's good. I think I admired, in the wake of all these things happening, you just have the one guy, he's chilling, he's got his little Jesus shrine, he's just taking it easy. I think at the end of the day, I don't know how there's two things. One, I don't know how they would have any energy after going through what they've been going through all day. So I think I would suppress myself and just want to take it easy and lay down. But at the same time, you might be so hopped up with adrenaline that you want to just, let that energy out, the nervous energy, and do something fun. So I don't know. I think I'd be a loner, but
I
do
would-
something fun.
yeah, right. Do something fun alone.
You know what? I'm
I don't
really
think
grateful
so.
they don't have a stereotypical hooker, prostitute scene,
Oh,
a Vietnam
gosh.
prostitute. I'm just like, yeah,
Me
it's
and
such
Levy,
a
wrong
stereotype.
Full Metal Jacket
Yeah.
had so many
Yeah.
of those.
I know, yeah, and that probably started it.
I mean,
Are there any girls in this movie?
They did have a moment after they burnt that village down. Charlie Sheen had to beat those guys off that girl.
Yeah, how
Oh,
nice of
yeah.
that. How many guys were actually doing that assault was insane.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how Stone decided to film that, where he really didn't include the faces of and it looked to be two young girls, and we're not talking about women, we're talking about children, essentially, that these fuckers are trying to, molest. And it's just, wow. Yeah, that whole scene is just, it's attention grabbing and disturbing. And with what I did watch with the documentary, there's a documentary with interviews with all the cast members, and Charlie Sheen said the closest that he got to feeling the way that his dad felt on Apocalypse Now was that shooting that whole sequence.
Crap.
Yeah.
Wow. Like the village scene, not
Yeah.
just that. Okay.
All of it. Yeah.
Man, it just seems like it was really pulled right out of Apocalypse Now. It really did. It had that kind of it just seemed so surreal and unbelievable. Just like Apocalypse Now, the one scene with the boats that really stands out to me. But yeah, there's quite a few of those. But yeah, since we're talking about this, we're getting to this point. This is the next point I have for us is that the village scene is one of those major scenes in this movie that really starts heating up a somewhat slow start. So while searching the huts, they're sent to this village. They think it's a point of interest. Maybe there's some Viet Cong men there, or weapons being stored, whatever else. They were sent to do this, and they do find weapons. They find a cache of weapons, and they don't see any men. I mean, this is kind of a red flag. There's no guys there, no younger guys, except one dude that was of note. He was wounded. He was a young, wounded Viet Cong soldier. Clearly, he was battle damaged. He was in hiding with his elderly relative in this makeshift little hiding space underground. And Charlie Sheen, he pulls him out, and right when he's trying to taunt him a little bit, the Viet Cong man, he's acting really oddly. He's giggling at him. He's grinning at him. He's giving these really strange expressions, and he's got one leg, and he's put in such a vulnerable situation here where, you have Charlie Sheen and a bunch of other men here with their rifles pointed at him, and he's just treating them like a joke. And I guess it's sort of a form of taunting. And, Charlie Sheen, he starts firing at his feet. He's really pissed about how he's being treated. And at the end of the day, he doesn't want to drop him because he has a soul at this point. He knows he's an unarmed prisoner, I guess, at this point, and that there's nothing he could really do. That's when one of Barnes' grunts comes in there, and he
Bunny.
comes in and he fires him. What'd you say his name
Bunny.
was? Gunny?
Bunny
with a B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Bunny comes in there and he shoots him dead in the face next to the elderly lady. He also kills her, and he does it, with joy, which is, a show of his character clearly, and that Barnes is starting to rub off on these guys a little bit. But this was one of those perplexing moments, right? Because we don't really spend much time with any of the Viet Cong characters where they stand out against the rest of them. This was a standout scene. I'm kind of wondering, why did you think this Viet Cong guy taunted Sheen like he did?
I can tell you that.
Okay, yeah, let's hear.
So what in those interviews that I listened to and the research was that the old woman, whether it be the grandmother or the mother of that guy, which by the way, those villagers in real life weren't actors, and that guy actually had a missing limb.
Oh crap!
And cataracts. But in terms of within the movie, the reason why he was smirking at Taylor is because the old woman was trying to get across to Sheen that he was mentally handicapped.
Oh shit!
That's exactly what Cassie thought too.
Well, that's weird.
She was like, he
which adds more to the fucked up nature of Bunny shooting him in that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
You can kind of tell. I mean, he was acting.
How come only Johnny Depp was the only interpreter? They didn't have like Blue's point though. They were completely unprepared for this terrain. They didn't know the language. It just seems like they went into this war thinking, okay, we're just going to demolish them, and it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, what happens if Johnny Depp dies? I mean, that's a
No one
very
can speak
important
to them.
character. That's a good point. I didn't understand that. That's funny. Yeah, because I mean, he gave him this blank expression, and I thought it was like a form of taunting, but it looked so silly, and it just didn't seem like it had any sort of meaning behind it. So that makes sense. Interesting. No, I didn't catch that. But
if Johnny Depp dies, they're going to have to go resurrect him in Davy Jones' locker.
We got to.
From this point on, Barnes, of course, we've been talking about it. He takes an extra step further after discovering that there's a large cache of food and rifles. I mean, there's tons of food in this village, and you wonder if it's like, if the village is actually like these are just defensive arms, or if they are, holding them for the Viet Cong, and if all this food is just to feed the village. It's kind of up in the air. They don't exactly confirm that or deny it, to my impression. But while questioning the leader of the village, at least maybe he's like some sort of spokesman of the village, Barnes pulls this random guy out, and he's questioning him. He's not giving him any answers. Johnny Depp is interpreting, and the guy's just he's not working with him. He's not spilling the beans, or at least he's telling Barnes answers he doesn't want to hear. That no, we're not Viet Cong. And while this is happening, his wife, the Vietnamese guy, his wife is going nuts, wailing and screaming, and Barnes just can't take it anymore, and he pops her right in the head. And at that point, everyone starts moaning and freaking out. And then the daughter, or like some young girl in the distance, she starts freaking out. That's when they pull the daughter out, and he holds her hostage. He's got the pistol up to her head, and trying to use her, of course, as a tool to get the answers he wants, right? And without really any sort of pushback from the platoon, everybody just kind of stands in shock, which I don't blame them for that. They stand in shock. They don't act. The only one that steps up and makes a difference is Elias, because he tackles him to the ground. And when he does that, he reroutes the mindset of the entire platoon, because they didn't really, it was either they didn't know what to do in that situation because they were shell shocked, because I mean, it's such a tragic situation. They just watched this poor woman get shot in the head on the spot when she didn't deserve it. And now this poor little girl is held hostage. So really ugly situation. They might be in shock, but at the same time, they might just be more sinister, because, as we've been talking about, you don't know who to trust, and they've watched a lot of their men get blown up and torn apart. So it's an interesting situation. So I'm kind of wondering, do you think that it was strictly shock that was the reason that Sheen didn't get involved in this series of events to jump in and help out? Because he seems like throughout the movie, he tries to do the right thing, and he tries to put himself out there. Was it really just being shocked that held him back?
Yeah, you could tell he was afraid of what was going to happen. I mean, he knew it wasn't his place at the time. He had nobody's respect. So even Elias's character was being looked down on, by most of Barnes's squad. So I don't think Sheen would have had much of a chance or a say.
I think he was still recovering from what he had done in that hut just moments before. And then to have Elias come in from out of the bush, and then he comes in and socks Barnes across the face. Did anyone else raise their fists and say "fuck yeah"? Because I
Yeah.
totally did. Yeah, I was so happy when that happened.
Yeah, that was cool.
I said one of my notes was I never loved Willem Dafoe more than this moment.
Yeah, for real.
That was beautiful.
I might take a different approach to it, and I don't know if there's any good way to word this whatsoever.
Oh
but
gosh.
I don't know if I really blame Barnes for the way he acted, because I remember, I think I said this on another one of our streams, though. The job of war is to win. And Elias, as nice, we could have a beer with him, we could hang out, talk about feelings with him. Barnes is the guy that's going to get things done. And they did they find weapons in this camp?
Yes, lots of them.
Burn it down. As bad as that sounds, you might get blown up just walking through the woods. This guy, as hardened as he is, he's seen a lot of stuff. He does, puts a gun to a child's head. At the end of the day, his job is to win, and I don't know if I could really blame him for what he does in this movie.
Yeah, but they end up doing that anyway, and so that whole torture scene and interrogation didn't need to happen because they ended up burning it down, as I said. I got the sense that those weapons could have been there out of defense, self-defense. Could have just been that.
Could have been. But that's
a lot of firepower.
The problem is we don't know. That's the scary part, is that we can go to this town. We see mostly women and children. Didn't they throw a grenade in one of the bunkers? Like, there's bunkers under there. We don't know what's going on there. So is it one of those things of better yet just destroy it all, or potentially we might lose some men in this?
I'm halfway on you when it comes to halfway with you when it comes to how the situation plays out. If you want to facilitate the environment by leveling it, I mean, that's still a terrible thing to do for the villagers, for their livelihood and their homes. But to shoot in the head a woman and then threaten a child at gunpoint, yeah, I'm not going to go with anyone on that.
Yeah, Emperor Goodwin, he says, more likely is the VC are forcing the villagers to store those munitions. That's interesting.
And that's a good suggestion as well.
There's no good answer. I think that's the biggest problem here, that whatever you do, there is a potential big ramification for it.
I kind of wonder, like real quick, Bo, before you go, if you don't mind. I think part of the reason, this could be like something you could bring up. Why Charlie Sheen didn't intervene is, he's his superior officer, right? I mean, he is the superior. So, if he intervenes and goes against his wishes, I mean, he could get court-martialed for that. If this, for whatever reason, was legal, there could be some serious ramifications for jumping in and making this decision to stop him from doing his initiative, right? That was something I kind of thought about.
I think in terms of the screenplay, in terms of the fictional story that Oliver Stone is telling, Charlie Sheen's not going to step in because he's a young, green, inexperienced person there, and Barnes is the staff sergeant, grizzled veteran. So he's got more gravitas. There's no way Charlie Sheen's going to step in to stop that. But in terms of the question of, what actually happened in that village, whether it was right or morally right or anything like that, I completely agree with Kyle that, it's not cool just to murder a little old lady for no reason and put a gun to the head of a little kid. Obviously, that's the case. Absolutely. You'd be a monster not to agree with that. But to agree with sorry, was it World War
Joe?
He makes a great point that it is war, though. Okay, their orders, the way General William Westmoreland wanted to fight the war in 1967 and 1968 was to send out search and destroy missions. You go out and you look for NVA and Viet Cong. You look for anything that is going to facilitate their war effort, and that includes just big bales of rice or something, and you destroy it. That's your job. That's your orders. That's the war you're involved in. If you find a big cache of guns, you destroy them. That's your orders. That's what you're there to be doing. So So both. You both make
yeah,
good
both
points.
of the answer.
There's also a psychological aspect of that too, though, because imagine if you are fighting on the Viet Cong side and you just hear, "Hey, they just burned down a village and killed all these kids." Like that's gonna really either it's gonna infuriate you or it's gonna make you take a step back. Like, what the hell are we gonna fight now? What are these people?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm interested in this. Like, I'm curious. Sly Jester makes a good point here. Good seeing you, man. He says, I'm curious to know if this is completely accurate because I don't remember this. You saw the tunnel that connected to the village to the surgery center in the tunnels. Was that this village? I think that was earlier on where
that was
Willem
when Willem
Dafoe
Dafoe walked in there and the guy pulled the
I don't think that was this village.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
I mean, it could technically be. I don't know how close those scenes were together, but those tunnels were huge, so potentially it could have been.
Yeah, interesting.
But
That would have been crazy.
There were
if that was the
children
case.
in that bunker, right? When he threw a grenade in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was something that just kind of
didn't-
like slid off the
Yeah, they didn't
slid
really
off your
touch
shoulder.
on that at all.
No. Yeah, and it wasn't like a smoke grenade either. Yeah, they really grazed over that. That's a good point.
Thought it was going to be a smoke grenade, and then the whole ground exploded.
Yeah, that was a strange one. So you guys thought, I mean, yeah, it seemed like there was definitely a connection here to the Viet Cong to some extent. And that, you know, I think somebody mentioned here in the chat that, here we go, Jay says it was always mandatory to destroy any village that helped the VC. So that is kind of, you know, that's
but
what
not
they
to
did.
destroy the people, and that's the difference here.
Were there, to Kyle, was there any because I was watching the movie with subtitles. I didn't see any translations for the Viet Cong. Were there any special features on the DVD that maybe had what the people were saying during the scene?
It's a good question. I don't recall when I was watching it that those were subtitled. No.
I just said
because we were just
said chattering on the thing. It didn't actually have what they were saying or subtitles of it. But
yeah, because otherwise having the mystery of Lerner / Johnny Depp interpreting would have created more of a clarity, and the whole point of that scene is there is no clarity. Yeah.
Well, something that was clear about this was Willem Dafoe was pissed. He's real pissed.
I love him.
And yeah, you gotta love Willem Dafoe in this. This is definitely his most I don't know, is positive the right word? This is his hero film. I don't really know any movies where he plays the hero like this.
But it really made me think about, because you remember I just did the masculine montage, the movie montage, right? And his character just stood out as, if I made it, you know, an extended version of it or another version, his character would be included in that in a montage.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it.
Yeah.
And you know what he does here is he's pissed. He's pissed, and he knows he wants Barnes to pay for this, for what he did, because he watched him shoot that lady gunpoint. You know, he shot the lady just totally out of the blue, no point, and he held the little girl at gunpoint. And of course, you know, earlier he's been just doing crazy stuff this whole time. And Willem Dafoe, he's ready to take it up to his superior officers. And when they get back to the camp, they speak with some other officer or some other military personnel. I can't exactly tell what his rank is, but he seems like he's definitely superior to these guys. And he mentions that, you know, if we find out that there was some wrongdoing here, that somebody was killed or that someone was not handled according to the Geneva Code, that they would be court-martialed. And, you know, of course, Willem Dafoe's, you know, he's pushing for that. He's got it against Barnes. And from that moment onward, Barnes, he vowed to get back at him. And I'm pretty sure he announces it very quickly after this. And what's strange is, you know, one of the few people that comes to his side to ask about the situation is the Lieutenant Wolf, who we've been talking about, who is, you know, his superior. He is, but Barnes, he talks over him every time, and nobody respects the lieutenant because, you know, as you say, Bo, he's green, and he has no confidence, and he doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't really care about his men either. I mean, like you said, there's a scene in the movie where he storms off. He says, "I don't even care anymore." So I guess I'm kind of wondering why you guys thought that Lieutenant Wolf went out of his way to choose to support him after hearing this news that he might be court-martialed, because that's sort of what happened. I mean, he was kind of questioning, like, do you think they're going to catch you? You know, is this something, you know, are you going to get in trouble? And it almost seemed like he was there as like, you know, I got your back. Why do you guys think that was the case?
I don't even think he would get in trouble in the end, though, because wouldn't Barnes's guys obviously stand up for him and tell the story in a way that was positive towards him? Because
yeah, right. Like, I mean, you could have enough guys. I feel like in this situation, you know, I feel like anybody calling up awareness for a serious accusation like that would turn heads, though. Don't you think? Don't you think it just takes one person to make a difference in that regard?
Well, I mean, it's I remember the movie Hacksaw Ridge at the end of that, where it had the Viet Cong surrendering, and then they pulled out the grenades and blew themselves up. So, you know, a situation like this, though, yes, we saw obviously the woman didn't have anything on her, but she did just start coming up to him. So in his mind, he could say, well, maybe she had something on her. So I'm wondering how a I wonder if there's like maybe like a channel that talks about, like, looks at a scene like that, says realistically, lawyer wise, would that court martial go through? I'm curious.
Do you have a thought, Bo? You kind of looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a who knows exactly. It's just a screenplay, isn't it? But there's this idea of if you ever seen A Few Good Men, there's this idea often in the services that your loyalty is to, and in this order, unit, core, God, country. And in other words, the most important thing is your unit. The most important thing is the guy next to you, even if he's a crazy killer, is that you're a band of brothers, that you look after each other first and foremost. You don't squeal on your own, right? You might have a fist fight with them and want to kill them just interpersonally between you and them, but you don't squill them up. You don't betray your unit, your own unit, and they're in the same unit. They're in the same platoon. So you just don't do that, you know, like honor amongst thieves, you might say. There's a number of ways you could express this. But yeah, Elias hates Barnes, but it's within their value set. It's the wrong thing to do just to squeal him up to the captain. I think that's what that is. That's what I've always thought that.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah, I mean, he is the snitch. I mean, he's a snitch. And really nobody ever likes a snitch. And yeah, you know, Elias, he's probably made a mistake at some point. Maybe it wasn't like, you know, involuntary, but still, and he probably never got busted for it. That's interesting point. Yeah, like the brotherhood, you know, there's supposed to be some respect, like, you know, don't be snitching on us. I mean, we're in the thick of it. So,
yeah, it's like you see someone try and do a rape or commit a rape. And yeah, you might stop them and you might hate them forevermore, but you don't tell the captain about it. Because you're in the same unit and your loyalty is to the unit above everything else, particularly when you're actually in combat anyway.
Well, here I got, you know, following this, my next question, I'm wondering, because, you know, we're talking about Wolf, and Wolf is the guy in this picture right next to Barnes. He's in the back. You don't really see much of him, and he really blends in with everybody. He also looks familiar, the actor. I feel like I've seen him in something, but I can't put my finger on it. Oh, well, I definitely didn't watch that. I don't know why you watched that. But
you never watched that?
Did you watch that with your grandmother or something? Like Desperate Housewives?
No, I had an ex that loved that show, so I pretended to love it too.
Nice. Okay, that's also fitting. But I'm kind of wondering why you guys thought he let Barnes boss him around and lead the platoon, even though he had the authority to do so.
That's easy. Because he gets things done. I don't think this unit would have survived under Elias's leadership, even though he is the nicer one and the more moral one. It's a war where you need a Barnes, and as bad as that is to say, he's the guy that's gonna pull the trigger every time. He's the guy that's going to get things done, and it looks better for Wolf that he supports him because, hey, he go to his superiors, say, hey, we cleared out all these places. Look how good I did leading these people along the way too. So that's why he supports him, I think.
Well, I seem to recall later on in the movie that Elias was the reason that all those men got out and on the helicopters, and the only reason he didn't is because he was betrayed by Barnes.
True.
I think the reason Wolf doesn't intervene here is again a theme that is very, very real in combat. If you read enough accounts of combat, is the idea of gravitas, authority. Right? There's one thing to have a higher rank, and there's another thing to wield real authority. Right?
Yeah.
Barnes has got the authority. He's a leader of men. Wolf isn't. Wolf is like, he's supposed to be what, a 25-year-old dude. He's still a boy, really. Barnes is a battle-hardened man. Right? So the authority is with Barnes, even though Wolf is obviously a much higher rank. But that's how it really goes. I said NCOs, sergeants, they run wars on the ground in real time. It's the sergeants. Now, if you had a more senior, someone like a captain who's in his 50s, who has also seen combat, maybe served in Korea, maybe served in World War II, right? Yeah, his authority would supersede somebody like Barnes, but there isn't. So in that situation, the gravitas, being a leader of men, what you say, what you do is the bottom line. All of that rests in Barnes, not Wolf. That's why he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, right. He's getting the job done right, and somebody's got to do it, and they're not listening to him, so why not? Real quick, I like Sly Jester. He offers us a fun little challenge. Rank the following 3 Vietnam War films: Platoon, Apocalypse Now, and Full Metal Jacket. Who wants to start? Real quick.
I have not seen Apocalypse Now.
Shame on you, Luke.
I'm saying that now. So I would say
you're gonna get a
Full Metal
spanking
Jacket
for that one, Luke.
All right, I'm not going to go with you guys on that one.
Come on,
I'm not. Okay. Anyway, I would say Platoon is at the top. Full Metal Jacket, and then Apocalypse Now. Although I need to rewatch it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's possible that could switch around. But right now, Platoon's at the top.
When we do Apocalypse Now, I'll have you on, Kyle. That'd be great if you want to join us.
I'd like to watch it.
All right,
that'd be good. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, easily for me. Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon.
Trifecta,
yeah.
triumvirate.
For me, Apocalypse Now is a tour de force. It's one of the greatest war films ever put on the silver screen, in my opinion. I'd put Platoon second and Full Metal Jacket. Though I love it, it's a great film. It's a Kubrick. Weird. It's almost 2 films in one, and I love Full Jacket, but I put it third in this.
I totally agree with you on that one. It does feel like 2 films that they're different. The movie cuts in half, and
that first half is so special to me. I even put it above Platoon. I mean, that first half is just. It's just awesome, purely awesome. I love it.
Yeah, we argued that the whole film of Full Metal Jacket should have just been the whole training.
Yeah,
the whole movie should have just been during training.
Short horror film of boot camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real. What about you, Joe? Real quick.
I would say Apocalypse Now, Platoon, and Full Metal. I think it's kind of hard to say something is better than Apocalypse Now. It's very close though.
Yeah.
Let me just very quickly say, just to before we move on from this, I think each one of those films is a great mirror for the directors, Francis Ford Coppola, Stone, and I just
Kubrick.
Sorry,
Kubrick.
Yeah. That each one it's a great reflection of who they are as a storyteller. One's weird and off the wall. One's sort of really deadly serious and accurate, and the other one's like almost like a dreamscape madness. Anyway,
yeah, 3 totally different lenses, and they all work. They all work in different ways, right? I didn't realize Oliver Stone did Scarface. That's crazy. He did Scarface, JFK, Born on the 4th of July. I mean, geez, he's done a lot of these big ones. Wall Street. Those are like the big ones I know, and then Platoon. I don't know most of these other ones, but Salvador, I guess, was another one he was really proud of. I'm not familiar with that one, but I'd be curious to check that one out.
He did that Alexander film, which is a travesty. If you ever do that film, because that's actually my background is ancient history. I did my dissertation on the campaigns of Alexander the Great, and Oliver Stone made a film about it, and it's the worst thing.
How did that happen?
Embarrassingly bad. I can't believe it's an Oliver Stone film.
Well, you didn't like Colin Farrell as Alexander.
He plays Alexander with an Irish accent, and a blonde wig. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous movie.
That's rough. That's funny. All right, I'll be sure to invite you to that one, Bo. That'd be great to have you on. I don't know when that's coming, but it's in the vault. Moving on though to the next part. So after the village incident, the company they organize a large multi-platoon search and destroy mission deep into enemy territory. And there's intel to suggest that there's a significant Viet Cong presence in the jungle with tunnels, weapon caches, possible ambush sites. And this is not like a small patrol we have here. This is going to be a full sweep with multiple platoons moving in parallel lines through the dense terrain. And this is like the largest operation throughout the whole movie. It all comes down to this, of course. And actually, no. There's two scenes. This is one, and then we're going to get to a even bigger scene later. But in this one, of course, the mission doesn't go as planned. All these guys, you have the platoons kind of split up into little sections. Barnes is here, Elias is here, and after chaos erupts, many of the platoon men we've been following, they get critical injuries, and Willem Dafoe, he kind of chases off some Viet Cong soldiers who are starting to pack up in the back line of the platoon, and he's trying to defend the rear from enemy flanking them. And this was a great opportunity for Barnes to do what he's been saying. He's been telling everybody, "I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him." Here's that opportunity. He says he's gonna go over there and he's gonna bring Elias back for a proper retreat. So he goes on down, and Elias is going beast mode out in the forest. He's chasing after some Viet Cong men, and he's doing a great job. He's chopping them all down, and he's still, it's interesting. He chooses to go off on his own. He's a real loner, lone survivor, and it seems like he does better on his own. Really, he's
that's
always
what he says.
There you go. He literally says it.
You're gonna go on your own. I move faster on my own.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Yes. So that's what happens here. He goes off on his own. And this is, of course, the most iconic scene. Well, almost. It could be considered the most, if not another one that's about to come after. But he's out there in the forest. He's in the jungle. And his adrenaline is pumping. And he turns around. He snaps back. He hears rustling in the bushes. And he sees Barnes. Oh, a sigh of relief. Yeah. A sigh of relief. It's not his friend, but it's his ally. It's his compadre. It's another man he can trust to some extent, way more than a Viet Cong soldier. Sigh of relief. And Barnes, he looks at him, he gives him this little grin, and he fires 3 rounds into his chest before running away. This was, of course, this is one of those big moments, whoa, what just happened? Mm-hmm. Shit hit the fan, and you think he's dead at that point. It's crazy to think that he's possibly alive here. You'll soon see that he's not dead yet. But I'm kind of wondering, did you guys? I mean, Kyle, you watched this for the first time.
Yeah.
How did you react to this? Because this is your first reaction. It's a huge scene. I
didn't know that was going to happen. I knew that Elias was going to appear in that field because of the iconic poster. I thought that's how he was going to first be shot. So to see Barnes be the one that initiates his basically weakening him, because if he hadn't been shot, he would have gotten to those kilos. So Barnes is responsible for his death. That piece of shit.
Yeah. Wow. So you didn't know he killed him?
That he was basically responsible. No, I had no idea that he was going to be the one.
Man.
Yeah.
You're lucky you got to see that firsthand. I wish that wasn't spoiled for me. That would have been nice.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Luke, what did you think of that? Because this was your first time seeing that scene, right?
Yes, it was. It caught me, by surprise big time. Real dick move there.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. I got you. All right.
Yeah, we just needed Scott Speedman inserted into that scene to say, why do you have to be such a dick about it?
I got shades of
great. I love
us. I got shades of the Lion King of Scar, brother, help me.
Yeah.
He just drops them. I'm surprised that scene didn't go on a little bit longer. Like maybe he shot him and then watched him die. But I kind of
Oh
like
man,
that
that would
they
have been
didn't have time for that.
crazy.
Or
Yeah,
maybe he got onto the
Oh.
helicopter, all shot up, and then he dies while making direct eye contact with Barnes as he fades away.
Oh gosh, yeah. So this scene, it really hits you. It really hits you when this happens. But there's so much happening that they do kind of gloss over it. They quickly shift away because Charlie Sheen, Barnes he's really not affected at all. At least we don't see any expressions change with him. He almost looks relieved that he's finally dead. And of course, Willem Dafoe is his biggest obstacle. He has grown to this position, this leadership position, through 10 years of hard work, 10 years of service, of pain, sweat, tears, blood. He lost himself. I mean, he lost who he was for this role. And Willem Dafoe was getting ready to take that away from him. So huge obstacle. You could see why through his perspective, his jaded perspective, why he'd want to do it, and he did it, and that was it, right? No, that wasn't it. Before we get to the next scene with Willem Dafoe, which is equally iconic, I kind of wonder what you guys thought was going through Barnes's head during that moment. Do you think there was any second thought? Do you think it was strictly like just he was just seeing red? You guys have any theories?
He knew what he was doing. If it had him where he paused for a second or paused afterwards, I don't recall there being a pause after he shot him where he thought about the mortality of, wow, I just shot literally a brother in arms in cold blood, and that was it. But I think he just saw that opportunity and just instinct took over. Like, yes, this guy's going to rat me out. He's going to... Oh, I stole on my screensaver. Sorry about that. This guy's going to rat me out. He's going to take away everything I've worked so hard for. No. I'm not going to let this happen. Right. This is my time.
I was kind of wondering, see, you're talking about the pauses, and it's so silly to talk about pauses, right? But I mean, a pause can make a big difference. Willem Dafoe, he turns around and he smiles at him. And it kind of looked like almost that smile could have maybe switched something up. But obviously, he switched gears and shot him on the spot.
Well, so Barnes comes into the scene with his rifle already raised, possibly thinking that he's going to run into a VC.
Uh-huh.
And that's when he's holding the rifle at Willem Dafoe. And they have just a moment of a look, and then Barnes lowers it. And that's when Willem Dafoe smiles, as if to say, the subtext is... Looks like you were going to kill me there for a second. And then he brings the rifle up, and that's when he shoots him.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
You're right. That's what it is. Duh. Yeah. It's like a relief. Like, whoa, glad you didn't just shoot me.
Yeah. Maybe you're not as bad as I thought you were. But,
That's the face. You're right. That's the face. Good catch, Kyle.
I think Barnes absolutely knew what he was doing. I think it's to do with what I mentioned earlier about authority. It's about power. There's only one person who can really take Barnes's power from him, there's only really one person that can even pretend to be a rival to him, and it's Elias.
Mm-hmm.
And Barnes can't have that.
Mm.
That's why he killed him. It wasn't.
Yeah, it has to be that, right? Like there's can't be anything else. But yeah, so what happens here is, of course, Charlie Sheen bumps right into him as he's like cowering away from Elias's, corpse. And Sheen immediately smelled that something was terribly wrong with Barnes. He knew something was off. And of course, as they were retreating back to the helicopter, the platoon rides away, flying away in the helicopter. And from a distance, they spot something a little odd down on the ground. They're pretty high up in the air at this point, and they see Elias is racing away from a horde of enemy Viet Cong as they're firing into his back. And this is such a bleak, damning scene to watch. He's stumbling he's probably got 20 VC crawling behind him. Mm-hmm. And he continues to push forward despite getting shot up in the back. And eventually it's too much for him. And as he takes his final breaths, he goes down to his knees as his arms raise up, and he dies in that moment. You know, not much leading up to this. We've seen that he is a stand-up character, Willem Dafoe. He's very likable. He's a hero. He's the biggest hero in the whole movie, right?
Mhm.
But, you know, at the end of the day, we don't really spend that much time with him. We really don't. We see, you know, small acts of heroism in a backdrop of people that don't really seem to have much compassion left in their system. Yet, this is such an impactful scene. So what do you guys think is the magic here that makes this scene so impactful for this character that we really haven't gotten to know all that well?
I want to catch that question and bring it back to you, dude, first, because I really
For me
want
to
to hear.
ask?
Yeah, for you to answer. I want to hear what you think of this moment. Why are his hands in the air? What does this all mean?
I think it's sort of like when I see that, it kind of looked like almost. It seemed religious almost. It seemed like this was like a symbol of faith before his final breaths. Like he's like as he's dying, he's kind of reaching out to God, asking for forgiveness. That's sort of what kind of stuck out to me. There's something about it where it just kind of has that. It has that sort of weight to it, where it seems like it's almost he's reaching out to God to rescue him from this pain. And also, I think it's just. You know, I don't think you can just do that on your own where you just go up and raise up with your arms in the air. That's something you're choosing to do. And especially as a last moment, I don't think he was doing that to look up at the guys in the helicopter. It was sort of like almost instinctual. So it's a big moment. And I kind of ponder that. But my initial thought was it's almost like a test of faith. Like he's reaching up, asking God for help. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. And I think like the way I think it impacted me, because first of all, the theme playing, like they intensified that theme so well in this, you know, the theme, which I didn't realize was the Platoon theme, you know, the iconic score here. I've heard it a million times before. I didn't know it was like directly tied to this film. They play that in the backdrop of this happening, and it's loud. It's not like a silent note. It's a focus. And when that happens, I love it when they do that. I love a focused, strong, impactful theme like that. It really gets your heart pumping. And that's what happened here. And I think at the end of the day, you know, he was special. He's a special character. There was no one else like him. He was the only compassionate character here. And he was a father figure to Charlie Sheen, which it's easy to attach yourself to Charlie Sheen because he is human. He's human and he is vulnerable. And we, you know, it's easy to want to befriend a vulnerable character because we are vulnerable and we would be just as vulnerable if we were in his shoes. We are him in that situation if we were thrown into the mix. So, and he was sort of the last symbol of compassion left in that squad that was up for Charlie Sheen to either pick that up or join the rest of the gang and become jaded. That's what I said.
I've always thought that the sort of iconic image of Willem Dafoe throwing his hands up in the air like that at the moment of death, is sort of like an exhortation to heaven or something like that. Of course, he's also being shot in the back, so it sort of does also make sort of some sort of physical sense as well. But I completely agree with you, 100% agree with you that the scene is so powerful because of Barber's Adagio for strings.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That bit of music, extremely powerful piece of music, and you know, Oliver Stone is a great filmmaker, and you know, he uses it. He does it very, very well. And Elias is obviously the good guy, isn't he? I mean, sort of very, very obviously. It's almost too on the nose that he's the good guy, the bad guy. And so to have him sort of pointlessly killed, you know, in front of everyone, in front of Charlie Sheen's, obviously Charlie Sheen is the main protagonist. And Elias, it's absolutely like his father figure, his protector, many other things. So to see him sort of slain in front of you to the sound of Barber's Adagio for strings. Yeah, so it's a very, very powerful scene. Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, like, the determination he had. He was shot 3 or 4 times by by Barnes earlier, and here he is racing away, trying to get back to his men.
From what I saw, he could have survived because the bullets that I saw hit him were on his right side, by his shoulder, in his chest, which was away from his heart. So there was a chance that he could have survived had it not been for the VC shooting him from behind.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as for him throwing his hands in the air, it's very similar to what you said, and I think we're all agreeing on this. The thing that springs to mind to me is that him throwing up his arms is him giving up his soul
Right.
to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
He's
how else we
surrendering.
could interpret. Yeah, how else can you see that, right? It just seems so spiritual almost. And I like what Emperor Goodwin.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's reinforced by that previous picture. I don't know if anyone noticed
Yep, he's
of
wearing a
Willem
cross.
Dafoe. Did you see what's around his neck?
Oh, is it a cross?
Yes.
It is.
Oh, good catch. See, I didn't know. I didn't know that if he was Christian or not. Huh. Let's see. I saw Emperor Goodwin made a good point. Let's see. I need to pull it up. Here we go. Yeah, he says he's supposed to be throwing his arms up as the bullets hit him. Instead, the delay has him throwing his arms up to heaven before he's shot. That's interesting. That would have been interesting. Like, if that's true, that's pretty crazy. Like, it's an effects problem. He also says that moment is actually a mistake from the effects guys. The squibs were supposed to go off sooner. That'd be crazy if so. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's such an impactful moment.
The squibs were going off. Willem Dafoe had the trigger in his hand, and you can see him holding it.
The trigger?
He didn't-
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really? That's ballsy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Good catch. I didn't notice that. So, okay, Kyle, if you think this was another question I had about this scene was if he had made it to the helicopter, if the helicopter hadn't flown away at this point, do you guys think he could make it? You say yes, Kyle.
I
That's
thought that the helicopter was going to come down and try to scoop him up. And the reason being is because this is actually parodied in Tropic Thunder at the beginning of it.
Yep.
Hopefully all you guys,
Yes.
have seen that great
I
comedy.
was just gonna bring up that movie too.
Yeah. So
I thought
it-
they were gonna get him because at the end of that where Ben Stiller falls down, they go to save him after. So as I'm watching, I'm like, oh,
Right.
he's gonna do the thing, and they're gonna run there and get him. So,
Right.
Oh, they flew away. Oh no.
yeah. One of the guys comes out of the helicopter and says, "Cover me, you limp dick fuckers!" tries to save him.
David, of course.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Right.
Yeah, Keith David would have been in that role. But no, it doesn't happen. Charlie Sheen from the helo up above just watches this happen. There's nobody on the ground.
Well, there was a
from
lot
that
of
POV of the
those
camera.
Viet Cong guys. I mean, there was probably 20 of those dudes there.
No,
They'd have to-
no friendlies. There were no friendlies on the ground for him. All of them were VC.
Isn't that sad though? He was the only guy that from like Barnes and Elias's standpoint. Elias would have done anything for his men, and at the end of it, he's left there by himself.
Yeah.
While everyone else goes way to safety.
Yeah, it's a sad scene. It didn't move me to tears or anything, but it was, and I don't know, maybe if I didn't know this shot, because you just know, because if you're
you've
into
seen it
movies, you just
before.
know
Yeah.
this poster. Probably the first time I saw it was sometime in Blockbuster growing up. When I was a kid, I probably saw this cover.
Yeah, I mean, this cover gives away a lot. Yeah, there's something about that where it's like even just a note, like seeing an image like this. I mean, it's not necessarily completely confirmed he's dead here, but I mean, he's probably dead. And yeah, just seeing that, it's iconic. I mean, this is what you think of when you think of Platoon. You don't think of Charlie Sheen or Barnes necessarily. You think of this image.
Yeah, which I appreciate, because I think Willem Dafoe is really the star of this movie.
I agree.
I think he's one of those characters. And Brawler, our first time you had me on here, we talked about Kingdom of Heaven, and you talked about the King Baldwin. You said when you were watching with your friends, people are talking stuff like that. But when he's on screen, everyone's watching.
Yeah.
One's on his notes. Every word he speaks is impactful, and that's what this character in Platoon is. So he wasn't in it that long, but you remember him and everything he did. So
yeah,
it's a lost art in writing today.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, he's a commanding presence. That's rare, and you got to earn that. That doesn't just happen. Nobody can just do that.
And also, like with this movie too, we see so many stars in it. Everyone did better after this movie. We really don't see people drop off. Like we're seeing Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker and
Yeah.
Keith David and Charlie Sheen. It's like they all went off to do amazing things.
Yeah, this is a stacked cast. We haven't really talked about it. It really is. It does have. You just mentioned it, and I'm glad you have, dude. Is this cast went on to, I wouldn't say bigger things, but just to do more work. And what I thought of after seeing how many people are in this movie is to compare how it is today, that we really don't have those types of movies that propagate a plethora of great actors anymore.
No.
None.
You know?
Yeah, right.
And that sounds so unfortunate.
Well, there you go. The only example is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then you had Austin Butler in there. You had Mickey Madison. I think there was another one. Like, I don't like these actors. But that's what did it. Sydney Sweeney was in it too.
That was Hollywood telling us this is who you're gonna get for the next decade or something like that. We're gonna put them in everything, and from what we're seeing, the fans really aren't running to go see them. So, but Platoon, everyone's seen someone in Platoon.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for a new war movie. It's just it's like Alex Garland's the only guy that's got the balls to do it anymore, it seems.
Yeah, so I like that you said that, and it connects to the discussion video that I have on my channel with Chris Dunn, and we're talking about warfare, not Warpath. What he says at the end of the video is he looks directly at the camera in the video, and he said, "Where are all the stories in 2007? There's so many things that happened in Iraq. So I challenge Alex Garland or some other filmmaker to do a type of Platoon movie." I mean, warfare is a little bit like that, right? But it's small scale. And this movie is Platoon is talked about when it was made as a small budgeted film. I'm not sure about the budget, but it feels a lot bigger than probably what it cost. And this is something, while we're on this topic, that I made note of. So this comes out in 1987, correct?
86.
86? Okay. In its entire theatrical run, this made, I'm rounding up, $139 million. Okay. Which converts to, rounding up, $400 million today.
Wow.
This was a blockbuster when it came out. And it was only put in 1,500 theaters. Wow. We now have
That's crazy.
Between 4,000 to 5,000 theaters today that movies get wide releases for. This movie was a blockbuster when it came out, and it won Best Picture. Okay. I think one of the reasons why it became successful back then was because catharsis that a lot of veterans needed to see and to show other people, but also the public at large wanted to understand what the fuck had happened, and they were revisiting what had happened a decade before, right? So, or 2 decades in that case. But movies like Warfare that come out that are depicting moments in the 20-year war overseas do not have as much value because today's culture just values movies differently. And any other film that even was made during the war, right in its peak in 2007, there were a whole bunch of movies that came out like Green Zone, The Kingdom. These are all great films, by the way, that were indictments on war, right, and the war itself. But the culture has changed. And a war film, even Hurt Locker, who that won Best Picture, that only grossed around $15 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Short run.
Compare Platoon's grosses back in the 80s. That was nearly $500 million. Is just
That's crazy.
Unbelievable to me.
Big difference. I don't
Yeah.
really care for Hurt Locker very much.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of that one.
I love that movie.
I think
Oh,
there's some
my
very
bad.
interesting points. I think Carl makes some very, very interesting points there. Because I remember, I was quite young, but I remember that Platoon was, like a big deal. It really was a big deal at the time. Like, my family is just some random family in England, but we had Platoon on VHS, right? Everyone had seen Platoon. Everyone watched Platoon. And actually, he made another good point about the numbers. It was actually quite a relatively low budget as well. So it made shit tons of money. No, Platoon was at the time, like of cultural significance, and a lot of veterans said it was important for them because something like Apocalypse Now, as I say, is based on a Joseph Conrad, a 19th century short story actually, and it's sort of about madness. It's not really about the realities of war, although it is that as well, but not in the way Platoon is. And it really, really was, or still is, I think, important. It stood the test of time. And I think a really important point Carl made there was that we value movies differently now. Even in the 1990s, I was a teenager all through the 1990s. And it was very often the case that everyone would see a film, say Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park came out in, I think, 1996, right? Everyone saw Jurassic Park, right? Nowadays, that's not really the case. Even big films that are quote unquote successful films, you won't get 95% of people having watched it. We experience movies differently now.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame.
It is. Yeah, it's just a different world.
I can't remember the last
diluted.
time. Oh yeah. Well, I think stupid streaming services have made it way worse. All of their content. They just make a movie to steal your time, and then you got 1,000 of those on 6 different streaming services, and then you got movies in the theaters, and then it's just gonna go right to the services. 4 weeks after its theatrical run, it's like, come on, make it stop.
I would like to make the point of Avatar 2, how it grossed, like 2 billion, some crazy astronomical amount.
It was like the second highest grossing film, wasn't it? Like Avatar and then Avatar 2?
Yeah, and no one talks about it. Meanwhile, we're here. One guy's here at 3 a.m. in his time over here, and we're talking about this incredible movie.
Yeah.
And people listen to this are going to probably watch this, and we're going to brag about this movie for the next 50 years. And then there's a thing like Avatar 2 comes out that, yes, it made $2 billion. No one ever talks about it. Zero cultural significance whatsoever.
Yeah.
But this thing, absolute banger, and I don't want them to remake it with Zendaya today. They probably will.
Nice. Wait, here. Real quick, Crocs File. What's up, man?
She's the only female in the platoon.
Oh
No, it's an all female.
We cannot
platoon.
let that happen. We cannot.
No,
let
it
that
can't be an
happen.
all-female platoon because otherwise she's not going to be oppressed by all the men.
Right.
Gosh. Park File says, not wrong, history bro. I was the only person in my local theater 4 times in the past couple weeks. Man, Park File sees everything. I respect that. And he lets me know what's good and not. And he's right. He's just right. He knows his movies well. Yeah. And Emperor Goodwin says Avatar movies are great screensavers.
This guy's on fire tonight.
Yeah, Goodwin's he smacks, bro. He smacks.
Yeah.
He's always
gosh. Here, let's go on to we're getting close to the concluding chapter of the movie. This is when shit really gets real. Let's see. Let me make sure I get to the right point here. Yeah. So where we are here, following the death of Willem Dafoe's character Elias, Charlie Sheen. I almost said Martin Sheen. Charlie Sheen. He is now he's kind of causing a little dissension in the ranks. He's talking to the other guys about the issue. He knows that Barnes had something to do with it. And they're hanging out in that old hot box. And when that happens, they're talking about what they're going to do. There's literally 6 of them plotting against Barnes. And he just pops right on in there and he catches them. And he's like, he doesn't say it exactly, but he pretty much, announces that, yeah, I killed him. And he gives them the opportunity to take him on. He says, 6 of you guys versus me. I mean, sounds like you could kill me. Are you actually going to do it? And nobody does anything, but Sheen lunges at him, and he starts fighting him, and he has no chance. And quickly, Barnes gets the upper hand, and he almost slits his throat. But another one of the guys, he reminds him that, you've been in this for 10 years, Barnes. Don't let this little puke take that from you. So he decides not to kill Sheen at this point. He does slice his face a little bit, but doesn't do too much to him. And following this, of course, Sheen, he's now really pissed, of course, and the rest of Elias's old friends, they are not fond of Barnes at all. But they gotta deal with it. They gotta work with him. So this is when everything really starts to heat up. The platoon, they are now dug in. This is like a massive operation that happens here. You have multiple platoons at this point. And the one that we are following here is they are guarding the perimeter of this larger camp with more of the superior officers. And they're dug in. They're dug in to secure the perimeter. And while this is happening, a huge, massive Viet Cong siege embarks. Hundreds of Viet Cong, NVA, charge right towards their foxholes. And they get totally overrun, really. And a lot of the guys are freaking out, and they're not exactly handling the situation very well. I don't blame them. They are completely overrun. All of their booby traps they laid aren't really making much of a difference. And Sheen really picks up the mantle and evolves into a warrior as he charges straight into the line of fire, mowing down Viet Cong along the way. Now,
like Elias.
Yeah, good catch. Yeah, Elias. Like
Elias.
Like Elias. Elias, bro. Elias. There ain't no Elias here. Like Elias. I didn't think about that. That's respectable. So he mirrors him in this moment. But yeah, this is when he really grows his confidence. And I mean, he could have been, a major contributor to warding these Viet Cong back. And the mess gets even worse when the Central Command, they start ordering air support along the perimeter. And that shakes up the platoon. All of our guys, they're on that perimeter and they're trying to hold the line. And thank goodness air support's there to help. But at the same time, they're getting hit and they're getting injured from their own arms, right? And this eventually goes to help out Sheen's character because he runs into Barnes. And when he runs into Barnes, now tell me if I am tripping balls or not, but I'm pretty sure I saw this correctly. We see Barnes assaulting another platoon man on the field. It looks like he's trying to kill him. And it looks like one of our guys. It did not look like a Viet Cong soldier. So Charlie Sheen butts in there and he gets in a fist fight with Barnes. And Barnes has an upper hand on him. And if it weren't for another bombing run, he could have been dead. But what ends up happening is another bombing run happens and it knocks Barnes on his ass. And Charlie Sheen is battered. I mean, you see in this image here, he does not look so hot. Mm-mm. And he goes on over there to Barnes and he kills him on the spot. And that was kind of a surprising moment to see him do that because, I don't know, we haven't really seen that from his character leading up to this. He had the opportunity to shoot that one Viet Cong soldier earlier. He didn't do that. And he seems to be more of a compassionate character leading up to this. Not saying that what he did wasn't compassionate necessarily. But, before we get to obviously the most juicy part, which is the ending of that sequence, I want to start with what do you think made Charlie Sheen go total Rambo mode? Do you think it was Elias, or do you think maybe he just found confidence in himself? What do you guys think?
He saw that there was just pure evil in Barnes's, character.
We're not talking about Barnes yet. That's later. We're talking about where did he get the cojones to do what he did? I mean, he did something crazy. He went full Rambo mode, picking up his rifle and chasing after all those Viet Cong soldiers when he's clearly outnumbered.
Someone had to fill in Willem Dafoe's shoes. I mean, Willem Dafoe taught him a lot of this. It was his mentor, and he really made a stand, right at his death. And Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen's
Charlie
character,
Sheen.
he witnessed all of that, and probably inspired him a lot.
Yeah.
And more specifically, there's a moment when he's in the trench. There is an explosion, a small explosion goes off and knocks him in the head a little bit. He falls down into the trench, but gets up, and that's when he realizes that the whole horde of VC are coming at him, and he's with another guy. We got to get out of here, and now they're going to bomb our foxhole trench, whatever you want to call it. And that's when he runs out and he starts going Rambo on everybody. Going Elias.
You hit the zone. You get in that mode where you got to do it. Michael Jordan hit 38 points, and when he had the flu, Charlie Sheen just killed 38 guys when his back's against the wall, and people wanted to retreat. He did what you have to. He just manned up and did it, and there's no way to explain it. These things just happen at the right time.
The adrenaline kicked in.
Yeah, I would agree. The couple of things spring to mind of real war accounts. One is there's a very famous book, Storm of Steel, by a German World War I soldier, Ernst Junger, and he talked about this: is that sometimes in combat, you throw all you haven't really got much choice. Sometimes you throw all caution to the wind. You feel like you're probably going to die here, so I may as well go out in a blaze of glory. And that very normal men are capable of that. Men that are terrified out of their wits just 5 minutes before. Something switches in their mind. Another World War I British soldier, Siegfried Sassoon, famous poet actually, in his Memoirs of an Infantry Officer, talks about this, how there's a very interesting section where he... one of his friends got killed by a sniper right next to him. And out of nowhere, he in his mind, something switches and he just runs into no man's land directly towards that sniper. Completely insane, completely suicidal. Turns out, actually, it wasn't suicidal. But the thing is, in war, in combat, you don't act rationally. Sometimes often, especially in firefights, you just do something that in any other context would be completely suicidal and insane, and you wouldn't dream you were ever capable of it. And then really quite ordinary men like Ernst Junger or Siegfried Sassoon do it. I feel like this is that sort of moment for, like when Oliver Stone himself charged a sniper. What a thing. I've got a bronze staff there. What an incredible thing. That's easy to skate over that. Now, wait a minute. Oliver Stone charged a sniper. That's an incredible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's an incredible thing. Slightly tweak on that. He could have got a Congressional Medal of Honor for something like that. That's crazy. That's suicidal bravery almost. And that happens often in combat if you believe the accounts. And I just think this is the Taylor version of that. He went berserk. And it totally happens. It does happen.
I also like Luke. I like you mentioning that, he's kind of, Willem Dafoe was his mentor. And this was like a Willem Dafoe move too. His character, that's something he would do. And that's something he has done and was doing. And, obviously Charlie Sheen looked up to him for that. I feel like that played a part in it. I feel like that probably did. Or at least I think they're suggesting it. But yeah, I also agree. Yeah, I think that it's definitely it did seem like it was almost like a switch in his head though, like you said though, Bo. I was definitely I did love that segment of this. And it makes it that much better that he was that way. I mean, charging a sniper, I mean, that might not sound that serious, but I mean, those snipers, they have every advantage possible. And to start chasing after them, probably out in the middle of the open too, and survive and do that where there's zero hope of surviving is so admirable.
Such as the end of Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. There you go. Right.
Just for a moment, if I could dwell on it, just for a quick moment, try and really imagine that you and all your men are pinned down by a sniper. Are you going to be the one to pop your head up and charge at that position? I think very few men would. Very, very few men are capable of that sort of heroism.
Would Barnes do it? That's he's the
I
guy
don't-
that would. He's the guy that would do that.
I mean, I'm talking about real life. Oliver Stone did it in real life, right?
Real life, no,
Siegfried
my friend.
Sassoon did it in real life. Would any of us on this panel? If
No,
I'm perfectly
no.
honest with you, I don't think I've got the balls.
No.
I'd be one of the guys that kept my head down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, nobody can really say what they would do, right? And it's 99% chance no, you wouldn't. Right? Yeah, we can all say what we want.
There are some men that are just built differently.
Mhm.
And
That's
the
true.
conversation that I had with Chris Dunn, this is a guy who doesn't suffer with PTSD. Okay. And in fact,
He didn't?
no, he does not.
Well, that's interesting.
And he says it in the video, available now. And he talks about how he misses combat.
Wow.
He's cut from a different cloth.
You know, absolutely, there are. There's I've heard a number of veterans say that for every 1,000 men, you'll find 10 that enjoy it, actively enjoy it, live for it, even.
Wow.
And out of those 10, you'll find one where it's like that's all they want to do. That's all they want to do, and they were born to do it. And so those guys are rare, but they absolutely exist. Through every generation, they absolutely exist.
And before I move on, those are good side plots. I like that. I just wanted to say real quick, I had a note, and I'm glad I looked at it. That from the beginning of this movie, we knew Charlie Sheen. He wanted to be something. He wanted to make something of himself. He wanted a moment to be a hero. He wanted a moment to stand up and take ownership of his choices and to make a difference. And I think this was obviously a scene. If we had any to pick, this is it. And I'm wondering if he had a realization of that in this moment. Either I can braven up and tackle this situation with everything I have, or I can cower away and likely die in this foxhole. I'm wondering if he had that moment during this catastrophe that happened, because obviously it was make or break here, and I don't think him hanging around that area playing it safe would have ended the show with him being alive. But moving on though.
Well, one other point to make on that, you mentioned Band of Brothers before.
Yeah,
an absolutely wonderful piece of TV.
Oh yeah,
I did a 10-part series on it myself. There's a bit in that when Ronald Spears, a real man, real veteran, he said something that's very profound that that's been mentioned in all sorts of real life accounts of combat. Is that at some point you give up the idea that you're going to get out of this alive, accept that you're dead, but that liberates you. That allows you to act. That allows you to do what Charlie Sheen did in that moment. Again, it's very, very common that men that saw a lot of combat say that, and I just thought that was a point worth running.
I remember that from the show too, and I also remember that line, like a similar line, being said by Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead when he described it was either his grandfather or his father, and one of the two said that he was drafted into the war, and he said right from the beginning, "I'm dead." And he lived out his life and duty as if he was a dead man, and he ended up coming home alive by the end of it. And that's something I feel like I would hope I'd convince myself of, to hopefully have a similar account if I ever was put in that situation. But you never know how you'd really act. But yeah, I always thought that's such an interesting testament to have to put yourself in that place. I'm dead right now, or I'm dead being here. So don't fight like you have life left in you. Do the mission like there is no tomorrow. So pretty interesting. I guess I'm kind of wondering, with this happening, Barnes, did I see that correctly? Did you guys notice him assaulting another platoon man?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That wasn't just me. Good. That really stuck out to me. Because clearly there is something seriously wrong. We don't know what that guy did. It wasn't a named character, obviously, or it wasn't someone recognizable, and it looked like he was going to kill him. So I kind of, he's broken. Clearly, something broke Barnes. I'm wondering what broke Barnes enough to snap on both Sheen and this other, likely unarmed soldier in the final act. Because, there was a small hint early on in the movie, as you mentioned, World War Joe, that he did somewhat care about his men. So how the hell did he lose all of that constitution at this point in time to do this?
It just breaks you there's no way to map PTSD or any trauma or anything like that. It just, something triggers you, and in that moment it's dark, he has no idea how many people, bombs are blowing off, he was beating the guy with his hands, right? I don't think or like a shovel, he didn't have his gun, right? Yeah, so in that moment it's just hits something that moves. And I kind of like that they really didn't touch too much on it. It wasn't like a soldier that he had beef with the entire time. It was just random person here, grab, kill, and that's all he was thinking of in that moment.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. It makes it, you think about it more. I think if it was someone we recognized, it'd almost be like, too much of a movie to show that. You know what I mean? It just being some random soldier kind of makes it, I don't know, makes it a little deeper almost.
Scarier too, because this could be a guy that you were with this entire time, and then he just snaps at the wrong time, and you're the closest one to him.
The way I think about it is I wonder if, when he killed Elias, if that, if that tore down another wall he had. Because clearly there's not much left in him that he's not willing to do. And that was one big thing. And once he did it, it just became easier to do. And maybe it, we all can be that way with anything, right? We make a mistake, and it's much easier to make the mistake the next time. So maybe that was part of it. But coming close to an end here, I just want to talk about the last scene, the ending shot where Charlie Sheen, of course, he makes it out alive. And
wait, you're not going to talk about?
No, go back a second. We got a lot to talk about here.
Okay, all right. What do you want to talk about? Somebody,
you're not going to talk about Chris Taylor shooting Barnes?
Oh, you're right. I did mess that. You're right.
Kind of the culmination of the journey, isn't it?
Kyle just jumped right on you with that.
All right. I didn't write about that for some reason. Okay. What? Well, okay. Well, I guess for me, it's not like a question. Like, it just seemed like kind of the obvious choice. Like, he was going to shoot Barnes at that point because he literally watched him about to kill another platoon man. He watched that happen, and then he almost killed him. He was so close to killing Charlie. What's his face?
Taylor.
Barnes almost destroyed Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
So he's got all the reason in the world to finish him. There's nothing. There's no hope for him now at this point.
And by the way, in that moment when he's raising that object up over his head, Barnes isn't about to crush Charlie Sheen's head, presumably. There's a flash of red light in his eyes. And one could say that's the explosion.
That's scary as hell.
From the helo, something being dropped, but the explosion was behind him. So to me, it just represented the evil in his eyes. It's very on the nose, but that was a close-up to show there was a flash in both eyes that was red.
That.
Yeah, it's almost like an evil possession going on.
Wait, whose
right
eyes are you talking about?
Barnes.
Oh, okay.
As he's raising.
They were red, yeah.
Yeah.
There's gotta be a still image of that. It's very haunting.
Yeah, how do you not have that, man?
I know.
You wanted to skip over all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then flash forward to the moment when Charlie Sheen Taylor is got his rifle up, pointed at Barnes on the ground, and Barnes taunts him and says, "Shoot me, right?"
Yeah.
Moment passes, just a beat, and in this version, in the official movie, he does. He kills him, I think 3 shots. I interpret that as his motivation to taunt him, to get him to kill him, was not, some people might say he was looking to have some mercy or to be spared from this war, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he has a moment of realization out of his PTSD and his crazy mind. No, I think he was taunting him because he wanted Charlie Sheen to become him.
Dang.
Any fucking chance that he could, he was going to try and make that happen.
Oh.
Yeah, and that didn't happen though.
Thankfully not.
It didn't seem like
but
it,
I think that was his hope.
I did not actually like the scene after he killed Barnes because he got to go home and he was, looking at the other man. It's like, hey, how you doing, man? It's like, I just shot a dude in cold. This wasn't war. This was straight up murder.
Yeah, he had it coming.
Yeah, I know, but still, but he shot an unarmed dude on the ground, brother in arms, and I would have liked it if maybe Charlie was the next man. Maybe like Wolf said, okay, well, now you're in charge. You're the next guy. He got to just go home. I would have liked to see maybe now he's broken. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to become Barnes? Is he going to become Elias? That would have been kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that plays into what I had mentioned before, which will be the reveal now. There is an alternate ending conclusion to this movie that they filmed. In that moment when Barnes is taunting him to get him to kill him, there's a version where Charlie Sheen doesn't do it and gives him a grin and backs off.
Oh crap, a grin? Wow.
Yeah.
What the hell happens after that? Is Barnes
In the words of Martin Sheen from Apocalypse Now, what balls?
So it would have made sense in what I'm saying for him to walk away from that because he wants to avoid, no, I'm not going to become you. So I'm backing off. The same way it plays out. That's what's interesting is that it is interchangeable because he walks out of the jungle and goes on the helo and you have the VO come in that I think is actually on the nose. I think it's too on the nose, everything that he's saying. Which is that what he says is, I think now looking back, we did not fight the enemy. We fought ourselves. Yeah, thanks. I think I get it.
Yeah,
and the enemy was us. Thanks, Oliver Stone. The war is over for me now, but it was always, it will always be there. The rest of my days, as I'm sure Elias will be. That's what I got at that time. Fighting with Barnes for what Ra called possession of my soul.
Yeah, I completely
Thanks,
agree.
Grandma. Said.
Yeah, Cole's right. He's over gilding the lily there. It's too blatant. Yeah, the voiceover at the end. But for me, the ending where he does kill Barnes, I think works. I do disagree slightly with World War Joe, and more agree with Cole that Barnes absolutely deserves it. This is justice. This is justice. Remember, Taylor basically knows that Barnes had killed Elias as well by this point. And that interesting note where you see the flames or the redness, the demonic nature of Barnes in his eyes, that red bit of his eyes where he's almost demonically possessed or something. Yeah, that it's justice. It's right that Taylor kills him. The world is better without Barnes. And I also think it works just as on the screenwriting level, or on the story arc plot level, it works better than letting him live, I think, because it does tie into that very, very last voiceover bit where Taylor or Oliver Stone is forever changed. When he first came in as that green, fresh-faced boy, he wouldn't have made that decision, I don't think. If that had happened, if he'd been faced with that choice on his first night in Vietnam, he probably wouldn't have killed Barnes. But he's a grizzled soldier now. He's a PTSD man now. And the difficult thing to do, the morally ambiguous, the morally more difficult thing to do is just to take his life in that moment. And he does. That's war. That's the horrific nature of it. That's the skull crushing, nature of it. That it's life and death, and yeah, quite often it's death. So
imagine if he got court-martialed after that.
Well,
someone saw that and it's like, wow, Charlie Sheen, he killed he
Sergeant,
the bad guy at the end, and then at the end of the movie he gets like the gas chamber or something.
Oh,
like,
man.
Nowadays in real life, you'd probably be prosecuted for a killing.
Dang.
Imagine if this is like Oliver Stone just making this movie to reveal what he did over in war. It's like, wow, did you really murder your own lieutenant?
Man. Well, we're talking about This was something that stood out to me and was disappointing about the movie. You know, we keep talking about Charlie Sheen's narration. I mean, he would talk, his narration would run pretty frequently throughout the movie. And, you know, obviously with Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen's narration, I am not kidding. It is my favorite narration in anything I've ever seen. It is my favorite. It's top. And, you know, here we are, another Vietnam War movie. It's his son, Charlie Sheen, delivering kind of similar lines, I guess. You know, he's building context, and there's no gravitas at all. It's flat, it's uninspired, and it's dull. But, you know, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to have a lot of gravitas. But, you know, it's easy to compare the two because that's literally, you know, they're doing the same thing, and their son, you know, son and father in 2 Vietnam War movies. But for me, it just didn't work. How do you guys feel about that segment, the narration?
I would say a lot of people don't like voiceover at all. They say it's sloppy, it's lazy storytelling. Never do voiceover. Show don't tell. All those things. But I actually agree with you, Brawler, that when done right, voiceover can be very powerful. Can be very, very good. Earlier on in this film, in Apocalypse Now, good examples of it. But I do agree with Carl that at the end, the bit when he's in the helicopter and he's crying at the very, very end of the film, is not done that well. It's too, for me, it's too sort of trite, it's too saccharine, it's too trying desperately to put a nice neat little bow on it. When the whole point of war, the whole point of the film Platoon is that war is horrible and dirty and unfair and unkind and mean and doesn't make sense, isn't rational. And then Oliver Stone with a bit of trite voiceover at the end tries to put a nice little bow on it all.
Yeah, he's trying to summarize the entirety of what we just watched, and that's not necessary.
Touching on that, though, I'm a little bit disappointed that Ty wasn't on here because I was going to bring up a point he made. I think it was like either Saving Private Ryan or Full Metal Jacket, though. I think he said that this movie was an anti-war movie in a way, that you got to see the horrors of war. So I'm just kind of putting this out there. Are all war movies kind of anti-war in a way because we see these things and think, no, I want nothing to do with this?
Nah, I think there's a lot that glorify the war and kind of encourage people. Like, it's cool. Look at these cool soldiers.
I don't know. I saw this movie and thinking, yeah, I do not want to do any of this. I saw Pacific Rim and said I want to get into a fighting robot and fist fight monsters, but this one, it's like, no, I'm good.
This is a good example of not being interested in entering that. I feel like they've made war movies that glorify it, that make you want to get excited and jump in, but none are coming to mind.
Any old war film,
Fury's one.
There's loads of old black and white World War II movies where we're the good guys, the Allies, whether it's the British or the Americans.
John Wayne did one.
We're the good guys. We're doing a righteous thing, and it was right and good. And the men that died, their sacrifice was worth it.
Yeah,
there's lots and lots of old films like that, old black and white films you can find, loads of them. Yeah, but this Platoon, Oliver Stone is absolutely anti-war, absolutely hated Vietnam and the concept of it and why the Americans were there and all that sort of thing. So yeah, Platoon is absolutely an anti-war film.
That's interesting that he'd hate it so much because I mean, if it's true based on this, Charlie Sheen's character, he volunteered to join. So that's interesting. I guess he learned to hate it, right?
It sounds fun in the beginning. It's like, hey, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to do the right thing for my country. And then when you're there, it's get me the hell out of here. The first scene is getting eaten by ants in his sleep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's brutal.
I guess real quick, I'll get to oh, wait, you got some, Kyle?
There's one movie that I think tops the charts of the number one film that glorifies war. Ooh. It's not hand-to-hand combat, but it's quite on the nose. Top Gun.
Oh
yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
That's a pop war movie.
Great point.
It's a pop song of a war movie.
Yeah, they got fun music playing. Yeah. Everybody's smiling, flying the jets.
I mean, there's loads and loads of pro-war movies. I mean, have you seen A Bridge Too Far? Have anyone ever seen the film A Bridge Too Far? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, it's a good one.
It's one of my favorite films of all time.
Oh, crap.
And although it shows the horrors of war, it was the right thing to do to confront the Nazis.
Oh,
Right,
that one's on the list.
You know, a lot of old films, and I'm talking from the 70s and earlier, a lot of them are pro-war. I mean, mostly about World War II, of course.
I'm down about it. I want pro-war movies. Those are probably, I imagine, more fun. I mean, Fury was a great, fun movie. Of course you could do pro-war movies about World War II, right? But Vietnam, I doubt there's a single example of a pro-war Vietnam film.
Yeah, it's much more difficult argument.
Right? Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm a little bit confused. But the end of the very end of it, before it fades to black, though, has that little quote about Oliver Stone saying, he made this to honor those who fought in the war. I just wonder, I understand how real the movie is. Was it respectful to show what everything these guys went through? I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. The Pentagon,
because it is so horrifying. That's why.
Sorry.
What were you gonna say, Bo?
I was just going to say, well, yeah, the idea about whether it's respectful. Well, so a lot of big budget Hollywood films about the war, but especially back in the actual 80s, they would want the green light from the Pentagon, from the military, to say, is it okay to do this or not? And they would even have the blessing of the US military and let them use helicopters and all sorts of things. Well, when the Pentagon saw Oliver Stone's screenplay, they were like, no, you can't do this. This is far too real and realistic and gritty and horrible and shows us in a bad light. No, we don't give it our blessing. We hope the film never gets made. Wow. So some people certainly did think it was bad. It was disrespectful. It wasn't the right thing to do to make this movie. Lots of other people, I think most other people, say no, that was the right thing to do. It's great. It was thank you for doing it. Lots of veterans, lots of Vietnam War vets said, thank you, Oliver Stone, for making this, showing it what it was really like. I thank you for that. So opinions split, but I think most people would agree the world's better off for Platoon being made. I certainly think that.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah. Well, here we are now. I mean, this was Vietnam War was a long time ago, right? 60s. I mean,
65 to 75. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I do want to say before we wrap it up, acknowledge that my uncle was in Vietnam actually, and his name was Van Corwith, and he was discharged in February of 1974 after his terms of service, so honorably discharged. And he was also an actor. So if you look up his name, he was in a couple movies. He has an IMDb and such.
Well, that's
There's a
cool.
photo of him. He was in a Top Gun-esque TV movie, actually. And there's a photo of him in the garb, like in a restaurant bar scene. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And the movie's available. It's on YouTube, actually. It's called Red Flag. Yeah. So he's in that as a supporting.
You can see him.
Yeah, he's got lines and he's got a supporting player role in that. Yeah,
that's cool. Nice man. Van Corwith. Cool. I always think your last name's Corwinth.
I don't see an N in there.
No,
Yeah.
I always
Don't give me shit about Elias.
That was bad, man. That was really bad. Elias.
I didn't change the spelling on it. It's just a pronunciation thing. You're actually adding a letter.
Oh, hey, I didn't do nothing, man. I'm just saying the way they say it. Don't blame me. I'm saying it the right way. Yeah, I've heard about Hamburger Hill. I'd be down to add that to the list. Emperor Goodwin says Hamburger Hill was the most brutal Vietnam movie I've seen. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that one.
It's a good one. It's a good film.
How long
I remember
was the Vietnam War? Did you say 10 years?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
too long.
What the hell did we do for 10 years there?
I mean, it's longer than that, really. I mean, nominally, it's from 65 to 75, but there was shit going down in like the early 60s. I mean, JFK was dealing with it, and JFK was killed in like 63. So it's actually much more than 10 years.
That's crazy that we don't have a lot more movies about this. That's like,
I mean, 60. It was about 60,000 US men were killed, not just wounded, killed. 60,000. Wow. So it makes something like the Iraq adventure pales in comparison. It was a big war. It was a pretty big war.
I never think of it being that long. 10 years is insane.
Crazy long.
Like that, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah,
I thought
all
it was
the bad
like
wars
3 years or something.
take long time Take a long time. That's the trait you notice with all the bad wars.
Good point.
Huh. Let's see. Wow, yeah, Emperor Goodwin, 55K died in Vietnam. That's crazy.
Ooh, that's crazy.
And Goodwin says, "Man, Corwith, get snippy about Elias. Come on." Emperor Goodwin
corn with. That's too close to corn sweat.
Oh, do you want to be corn sweat? You could be a corn sweat.
Fuck no.
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 Yeah, Emperor Goodwin also says that the Apocalypse Now didn't have Pentagon approval either. Yeah.
I never
they
heard
probably
about
wouldn't
that.
like
That's
that one.
insane.
Parkfile asked me about something. What is it? Here we go. Luke Brawler, play Valiant Hearts, The Great War sometime. It's short, easy, and has a lot to say about the realities of war. I think I know that. It's like a 2D game.
It's a great game.
Oh, you played that one, huh? And the dog, isn't there a dog in it?
Yes, you could. Yeah, the dog fetches you grenades and stuff.
I remember it being sad.
It's a very sad ending too.
Gosh.
But it's actually not to spoil it. It's one of those things where your main character at the end kills. Project Fire, help me out here. I think he kills one of his the lieutenants or something like that, because he's just sacrificing all these people, just throwing them to the wolves, and then your guy kills them, and then I'm pretty sure you face a firing squad afterwards.
Wow.
Just spoiled it, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing with the Barnes situation. You kill him, but what happens afterwards?
Thanks for ruining the whole game for me. Appreciate it.
I'm not getting it anymore.
Because of you, we will not play this ever. Thanks. Oh, good. Well, guys, I think we all had a pretty comprehensive chat. Thankfully, Kyle kept me in line in the end there. You know, this is the longest one I think we've done on here. This is 2 hours and 45 minutes, so it's been a lot of fun. I guess why don't we finish off by maybe giving our final thoughts? Do you recommend Platoon?
I do.
But is Platoon the greatest Vietnam War film ever made?
No.
Final thoughts, guys.
It's great. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It is a great portrayal to the Vietnam War, but it's not the best.
Yeah.
I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's just because of the first 30 minutes or so don't hook me as much as they should. And it takes a bit for the movie to get its legs running, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I got an 8 on it too. I think it's definitely a solid 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's moments where it's like kind of kitschy almost. Where it just seemed like it was trying to be a war movie, even though like the point of it wasn't trying to be a war movie. You know what I mean? Like a stereotypical war movie. But you know, after further deliberation, it seems like a lot of those like kind of kitschy moments actually happened. Like, I always thought the Rambo scene was a little kitschy, but he was kind of badass like that. So I mean, it's not totally out of line. But yeah, definitely.
I think the line that Charlie Sheen shouted, which was improvisation, when he shouts, "It's beautiful, man," he ripped that off from Tom Cruise in Taps.
Yes.
And I thought that was very out of place and out of character for him to do that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like a great moment. But yeah, I recommend.
I give it an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I think for me, it's the second best Vietnam film after Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
That's what I would say. It's an 8 or a 9 out of 10. There's only a few relatively small things I would say make it imperfect. It's pretty good. Definitely, if anyone hasn't watched it and is interested in Vietnam, I'd certainly recommend it.
Yeah, great. Joe, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, definitely a 9. This thing is going to withstand the test of time. It's iconic. It does so many things right. It gets you thinking. And that alternate ending, I never heard about that. That's kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious of where it would have went afterwards.
I want to see that clip. I might have to look that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, thank you all for watching. It was great having you all here in the chat talking with us. Thanks for talking. We look at the chat and we see and we pull stuff out. So sorry, we're not always super engaged with that, but we appreciate you guys in the chat. Appreciate everybody watching, replay, whatever else. If you liked what we had to say today, please make sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check out everybody else's channels here. Got a lot of great guests. Bo, it was a real pleasure having you on for the first time, your debut. Much appreciated for your time and waking up real early. So thank you very much. You added a lot of great historical significance and personality. Much appreciated. And Kyle and World War Joe, of course, always a pleasure to have you boys on. Be sure to check out their channels. Links are in the description, everybody. And next Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we're talking about Die Hard. Watching Die Hard for the very first time, just in time for Christmas.
Movie of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
We'll see you guys later. And never forget this. Never forget. Give him the Duke and give him the dog.
What kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky?